In Marvel, I practiced the method of swallowing stars and amazed the Avengers. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76, Planeta Re-Level 9. When Wanda saw each other, they turned and left. I was relieved in my heart. But she didn't expect Zuemo to let him go so easily. After all, judging from previous contacts, he is not such an easy person to get along with. After saying goodbye to Sky, Wanda drove the Ferrari towards the outside until the car disappears from sight. Have you and Sky known each other for a long time? Wanda asked while driving the vehicle. No, of course. I don't know him, Zu Emo denied it. He wasn't lying. After all, he really didn't know him. If he hadn't noticed the difference in the other person's expression, he really wouldn't have recognized the other person in his clothes. Wanda obviously didn't believe it. But she didn't ask any more questions. After dinner in the room of the villa, Zuemo took out a palm-sized black glove and handed it to Wanda opposite. This is Wanda took it with a puzzled look on her face and looked at Zuemo doubtfully. Put a drop of blood on it. Hearing Zuemo's words, Wanda's eyes lit up. The storage ring that required bleeding last time was still on her finger. Obviously, this is another similar treasure. Thinking of this, she took a dagger from the storage ring without any hesitation and lightly swiped it on her finger. She frowned slightly. A drop of blood dripped from the finger, fell on the black glove, and was absorbed into it. In a moment, the black gloves turned into liquid and flowed towards her. After a while, a red windbreaker appeared on her body. Honey, this is amazing. After staying with Wanda for 2 days, Zuemo left. The entrance of the villa. Sonia looked at Zuemo leaving, rubbed the dark circles under his eyes, and let out a sigh of relief on his face. After Wanda's strong persuasion, she finally stayed. Later she found out that Wanda and she were students at the same university. However, during the past 2 days, she had been suffering almost all the time at night. Every night she could not fall asleep listening to the sound from next door. That lasted all night. In addition, the sheets need to be washed in the morning and classes need to be taken during the day. Fortunately, the other party only stayed for 2 days before leaving. Otherwise, she would probably collapse before long. Soon, Wanda came back from outside. The two returned to the living room. Seeing the dark circles under Sonia's eyes, Wanda's face turned red, and she spoke apologetically. I'm sorry, you haven't been able to rest well these past 2 days. Hearing this, Sonia waved her hands quickly. No, this is your home anyway. I'm the only one who disturbed you. After saying that, Sonia looked at Wanda's rosy face in the past 2 days and secretly sighed in her heart. Is it really so magical? As a pure manual player, a trace of curiosity gradually arose in her heart. Do you want to read the other party's memory and see what's going on? Sonia has always been hiding a secret. She is actually a mutant. The ability is to read and modify other people's memories. She even imitated Magneto, Mystique and the others, and gave herself a name in private. Sweet dreamer. This thought just came to mind. She quickly dismissed it. No, Wanda is kind enough to take me in. How can I prying into each other's privacy at will? While she was thinking wildly, Wanda across from her held her cell phone and let out an exclamation. Before she could ask questions, Wanda held the phone in front of her. Look at this. Hearing this, Sonia looked at a news item on her phone. A freshman at State University named Scott was arrested for robbing a bank and is expected to face 25 years in prison. Is this the person who has been pestering you before? Sonia asked with a surprised look on her face. Wanda also mentioned this matter to her when chatting. Thanks to her amazing memory, she reacted immediately when she saw the other person's name. Wanda nodded. Island of the Dead. After Zuemo returned to the beach villa, he directly entered the Star Tower. Returning to the training room, he accelerated time 10 times and then took out the nutrition bin. The nutrition cabin is a silver white cabin nearly 3 meters long. The nutrition cabin is a silver white cabin nearly 3 meters long. Appearance of the cabin is full of technology. After studying the instructions for a long time, Zuemo finally understood how to use the nutrition cabin. Pressing a button on the side of the cabin, the door opened. The interior of the cabin is about 50 centimeters deep and filled with a light green liquid. These liquids are the key to allowing him to advance to the 9th level of planetary level. Zuemo took off his clothes and lay directly in. As the hatch closed, the liquid in a certain cabin seemed to be activated and poured into his body. Zuemo closed his eyes. Start practicing the illustration of gods and demons. A year and a half flew by. At this time, earth-shaking changes had taken place on Death Island. In the very center of the island, a large number of buildings have appeared. However, the number of people on the island has been greatly reduced. As early as a year ago, the soldiers who had completed training, led by Soren and others, went hunting in various locations around the world to help Zuemo earn points. After more than a year of training. The 9 of Soren and his companions have all been promoted to the level of generals, and the worst of his soldiers have reached the level of primary warriors. After all, they eat beast meat every day. Even a teacup dog can beat a tiger at this time. Only the White Queen and the other 10 mutants and the researchers are left on the island. All the guards have been replaced by sentry robots in the training room of the Star Tower. Zuemo slowly opened his eyes. Although only 1 year has passed in the outside world, he has experienced 15 or 16 years under the accelerated time of the Star Tower in just 2 months. His mental and physical strength have reached the level of the 9th level of the planetary level. But after more than 10 years, Thunderblade has been cultivated to the 20th level, and God and Demon Atlas has reached the 40th level. But he is still trapped at the peak of the planetary level and has been unable to break through. It makes sense. According to the devouring method, if you just rely on external forces to improve, this will lead to this situation. It will be very difficult to break through from the 9th level to the next level. It is normal to be trapped for decades now. After reaching the star level, if there is no accident, you may never be able to break through to the universe level. The reason why City Lord Eluo can quickly improve with the nutrition cabin. Thanks to the existence of the Golden Horn clone. After having the Golden Horn clone, the Golden Horn is the main body, and as long as the world inside the Golden Horn grows, there will be no bottleneck in the growth of his human body. Zuemo had expected this situation to happen a long time ago. Of course, he had already thought of using the same response method. After more than a year, the zombies in the other world had been cleared. Thinking of this, Zuemo said silently, "System, open the attribute panel." Chapter 77. 6 billion points, nurturing the beast god clone. As soon as the words fell, a familiar attribute panel appeared in front of him. Name, Zuemo. Age, 21 years old. Strength, 300,000 tons. Speed, 100,000 meters/s. Telekinesis, 300,000 tons. Special ability, freeze space points, 6,003,538,200 points. Level, planetary level 1. Looking at the points column. Zuemo showed a shocked look on his face. 6 billion points, much more than he imagined. According to the information obtained from that world, when the zombie virus broke out, the world's population was only about 6.7 billion. That is to say, after the virus broke out, 6 billion humans were infected with the virus and turned into zombies. Originally, I was worried that the points would not be enough to exchange for the ability I had already favored. But now, I don't have to worry about this. Thinking of this, he opened them all. Find the ability he had long been optimistic about. Innate ability clone. Ignore any rules and breed 5 clones. The clones are of the same level as the original body, and as long as one clone survives, the other clones can be quickly reshaped. Points required for exchange, 5 billion. This innate ability requires 5 billion points. These points can almost be exchanged for an ordinary treasure. But in Zuemo's opinion, this ability is much more powerful than those ordinary treasures. The most important thing is to ignore any rules, whether it is flesh and blood, energy, or the embodiment of rules. This clone can breed all. Although the golden horned beast also has the talent of a clone, it is not at the same level as this one. Exchange, Zoo. Mo exchanged this ability without any hesitation. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the talent clone, consuming 5 billion points. Instantly pointer. Strange wave appeared on Zuemo point almost in an instant. This wave disappeared point however. Zuemo felt that he had gained the ability to breed clones after exchanging this. Zuemo did not stop, but searched for a gene sample in the mall. Gene sample of the space-time beast god. Space-time beast god. One of the 8 natural beast gods. A beast god that integrates the laws of time and space. Points required for exchange. 1 billion. This is a combination he had thought of a long time ago. Use this clone ability to breed the space-time beast god, one of the natural beast gods. After reaching the star level, you can initially comprehend the law point coupled with the time and space gems in this world. Zuemo chose the path of integrating the laws of time and space without any hesitation point. Although this is relatively the most difficult path point, it is also the most powerful path point. If you can't be the strongest even if you cheat, what's the point of cheating? You know, the space-time beast god is the incarnation of the natural fusion of the laws of time and space. In the original universe, he is the master of the universe by nature. Although after being bred by the innate ability, he will be just like himself, only at the planetary level. But I think the other part is affinity for the laws of time and space will definitely not change. In addition, this unique and special life in the universe, with a perfect 10,081 times genetic level, even if it is at the planetary level, the divine body alone may be able to compete with the universe level. And the reason why I exchanged the clone ability first. It is also to be able to practice the treasure book, 9 Tribulations secret book, that improves the genetic level. You know, the 9 Tribulations secret book is a secret method that can break the genetic level below the realm master level by no more than 100 times, and the difficulty of practicing can be imagined. And every time the practice fails, the body's genes will collapse directly. Without the clone secret method, even if there are hundreds of lives, it is not enough to consume. After consuming another 1 billion points, Zuemo looked at the only more than 3 million points left. He shook his head helplessly. A full 6 billion points, almost consumed in an instant. But everything is worth it. Looking at a test tube filled with a strange liquid in his hand. Is this the beast god gene sample? Without the slightest hesitation, Zuemo took out the sample directly and then activated his talent ability. Instant. Countless streams of light began to gather rapidly around the liquid. In less than 5 minutes, a huge streamer cocoon with a diameter of 2 meters appeared in front of him. Seeing that the cocoon was still growing, Zuemo hurriedly planned to call Crossing G. But just as he had this idea, Crossing G had already appeared beside him. As the spirit of the Star Tower, naturally any movement could not be hidden from her. The moment Zuemo nurtured the clone, she noticed the movement here. Crossing G looked at the big cocoon in front of her with a strange face. In an instant, she saw the essence inside. Nurturing a clone. Even though she didn't know what level of strength she had reached, she felt a little surprised. She had seen the natural beast god who took over the body. This was the first time she had seen it nurtured by the secret technique of clone. But now was not the time to think about this. The giant cocoon had expanded to the size of a house. If she hesitated any longer, it would touch the wall of the training room. She waved her hand. The surrounding scene changed instantly. The two of them, along with the giant cocoon, have arrived in a vast starry sky. There is enough space here for them to grow. A few hours later, the cocoon expanded to a diameter of more than 30 kilometers, and it gradually stopped expanding until then. After the expansion was completed, the giant cocoon became stable. Only streams of light continued to sink into it. After waiting for half an hour, the giant cocoon did not change again. Judging from the situation, it seems that this gestation process cannot be completed in a short time. At this moment, Zuemo planned to return to the practice room. But he was stopped by Crossing G beside him. How did you do it? She looked at Zuemo in surprise. Keep it a secret. It was rare to let the other party suffer a setback, so Zuemo naturally couldn't tell the other party. Back to the practice room. Zuemo looked at the remaining more than 3 million points, simply consumed another 3 million points, and exchanged for a third level superior spiritual power weapon, Kyanji disc. Kyanji disc is a metal disc with a diameter of nearly 1 meter. The whole body is assembled from 10,081 pocket swords. There are 3 layers in total. The first layer is the sky-splitting sword. It requires the amplitude of the power to reach more than 20 to be used. It can increase the telekinesis 5 times based on the amplitude. Just like his current telekinesis is 300,000 tons, with an amplitude of 40, the total impact force can reach 12 million tons. After the amplitude of the sky-splitting sword, it can reach 60 million tons. The second layer, Star Shield Point, the telekinesis amplitude needs to reach 35 or above. To practice point the last layer, 1000 machines, requires an amplitude of 80. When Zuemo was studying the 1000 machines disc point in a training hall in the center of the Death Island point, Raven was looking at Magneto with a bad face point at this time. Magneto Eric was lying on the ground with a bruised face point. As a condition for joining point, Raven will beat Magneto once a month point when he cannot use his abilities. Magneto's fighting ability is far behind Raven point at this time. Point Eric, who was panting on the ground, saw a space door slowly opening not far from the two of them. Point a man with purple skin walked out of it. Point a woman followed behind him. Point the woman was wearing a purple tights and a red belt with her long black hair tied behind her head. Seeing this, Raven stopped his right foot and looked at the two people with a defensive look. "Who are you?" The man smiled after hearing this. "Me, of course, I'm here to save you." Chapter 78 Apocalypse and Psylocke. Eric also stood up from the ground when he saw this. Unlike Raven and the White Queen, who were mutants with mutated bodies, he could slow down the aging process. Even now, he still looked like he was in his 20s or 30s. He and Professor X, their bodies had aged like ordinary people. If Raven hadn't stopped just now, he probably wouldn't be able to stand up now. Point despite this appearance. Point the man stepped up. "It seems that we will return disappointed this time." At this time, Point Emma walked in from outside. Point with her current psychic ability, she sensed the moment the two of them appeared on the island. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Emma felt a powerful energy in the other person's body and asked cautiously. After searching in her mind for a long time, there was no information about the man. As for Psylocke behind the man, she was not unfamiliar. She was also a mutant with psychic abilities. It's just that the other party's ability focuses on different directions from her own. Psylocke's psychic ability focuses more on the materialization of mental power and can turn mental power into weapons. Seeing Emma coming in, the man's eyes lit up. "I can feel your power. It's so powerful. Playing tricks." Hearing the other party's inexplicable words, Emma showed an impatient look on her face. In her opinion, the man in front of her was like a lunatic, talking to himself there, answering irrelevant questions. A silver light flashed in her eyes. The psychic ability was activated instantly. Seeing this, Psylocke, who was standing behind Apocalypse, also activated her psychic ability at the same time. Although the focus is different, with her ability, she can still resist the control of the White Queen on the opposite side. Point of course, this was before the White Queen practiced the secret method given by Zuemo. Point. As soon as she came into contact, Psylocke's expression changed. The psychic ability strengthened by Apocalypse could not resist the invasion of the other party's psychic ability. It lasted for less than half a minute. Psylocke's face became dull, and Apocalypse, who was standing in front of her, as the oldest mutant, was also stunned at the first moment. Point in the spiritual world. Point he looked at the White Queen who appeared here, feeling the huge pressure from the other party. Point he explained, "We are not enemies. I'm here to lead you to retake the world taken away by those inferior humans." Listening to the other party's inexplicable words, the White Queen looked at him with an idiotic look. "You should save these words to explain to my boss." After saying that, a series of silver threads wrapped around the other party's Apocalypse. Point seeing the other party's eyes, Apocalypse felt that his majesty was despised. Point he roared angrily, "You stupid mutant, it seems that my majesty has been forgotten by people for so many years." Before he finished speaking, Point his body was tied up by those silver threads. Apocalypse was not panicked. "You know nothing about my power." After saying that, his body swelled up rapidly, trying to break free from the restraints of these threads. The White Queen heard these familiar words. The last person who said that, if it weren't for the fact that it was still useful, his ashes would have been scattered. However, Apocalypse, who has lived for thousands of years, obviously does not just rely on bragging. As his body grew stronger, the threads wrapped around him gradually broke apart. When Emma saw this scene, she also showed a slightly surprised expression on her face. After practicing the magic tricks taught to her by Zuemo for more than a year, she can be regarded as the undisputed #1 in psychic ability. Even Professor X, she was confident that she could control the other party within 3 minutes. But the mutant in front of her could actually break free from her control point. However, judging from the way the other party broke free, the skills were far inferior to hers, but she just relied on her strong mental power. Seeing this, Emma's face also showed a serious look. However, compared to her, Apocalypse on the opposite side was even more shocked. You know, as the first mutant, he has seen countless mutants with psychic abilities over the years. He also has this ability point. However, his ability focuses on reading minds and transferring consciousness. Despite this, he is not inferior to any mutant who specializes in manipulating other people's consciousness. But this is the first time he feels threatened by a mutant with psychic abilities. Looking at the countless threads that are overwhelming and attacking him again, he also has a slight intention to retreat. You know, his consciousness is trapped here, but his body is still outside. There are people from the other side all around outside, but the other side has trapped himself in the consciousness space. If he doesn't expel the other side, he has no way to regain control of his body. Thinking of this, his eyes moved. He directly detonated a part of his mental power, and at the cost of mental damage, he expelled the White Queen from the Sea of Consciousness. Cheyenne Key, who came back to his senses, activated the teleportation ability without hesitation. A portal opened, and he jumped in. The White Queen's face changed, and she sighed as she looked at the place where the other party disappeared. Or the training time was too short. Facing the other party's mental power that was several times greater than hers, she still couldn't completely suppress it. Looking at Solok, who was still stunned in the same place, Emma instructed the 2 staff members behind her, put on her the ability suppression collar, and make plans after the boss comes back. The 2 people behind her nodded and stepped forward to put a black collar on her. By the way, put it on her hands and feet. This person's ability is a bit unusual. The White Queen, who was about to walk out of the door, gave another instruction, and then turned to leave. The White Queen didn't know that Apocalypse had the ability to strengthen other mutants, but from the contact just now, she realized that in a short while. The 2 people who were wrapped in mutant suppression collars were thrown into the next room and locked up. Only Raven and Eric were left in the hall. Raven looked at the gray-haired Eric and didn't want to do anything else. He turned around and walked outside. One day later, Zuemo withdrew from the Star Tower after more than 10 days of practice. He was able to master the first level of the 1000 machine disc. The second level was also able to be used. In a flash, his figure appeared above the sea a few kilometers away from the island. Looking at a small island about 1 square kilometer in size not far away, the 1000 machine disc appeared beside him. As his mind power surged inside. The 1000 machine disc quickly split into 10,081 small swords, and then these small swords were reassembled. Finally, it turned into a giant sword that was more than 3 meters long. Under the full urging of the mind power, the patterns on the surface of the giant sword were instantly activated, and it disappeared in a flash. After 2 seconds, a violent roar came from the island in the distance. Under Zuemo's eyes, the island was completely blown into pieces. Then it fell within a range of 5 kilometers around and slowly sank. Chapter 79 Slave Chip. This movement instantly alarmed the people on the Death Island. However, with the comfort of the White Queen, the people on the island gradually calmed down. The White Queen was almost certain that Zuemo had made this movement, as it could not be noticed by herself, and could cause such a great power. Zuemo did not expect that the power could reach such a great power. There are 2 ways to attack the first level of the sky-splitting sword. Impact and penetration. The 2 methods focus on different aspects. Impact is the method he just used. The moment the giant sword touches the object, the small swords combined on it will stand up forward like fish scales, increase the resistance between the giant sword and the island and radiate the spiritual energy on it to the surroundings, cause a huge impact force Basically in this case, it focuses more on group destructive ability. The other is penetration. The sword body remains streamlined as a whole, and the power is concentrated on the tip of the sword. The single attack power reaches a maximum value. However, when encountering a larger target, it will cause penetration damage. Nodded with satisfaction. A moment later, Zuemo appeared in the White Queen's room on the island. You made such a big noise. As soon as you came back, Emma held the wine glass and looked at Zuemo opposite her, making a lazy sound. By the way, a man and a woman broke into the island yesterday. As she said that, the White Queen handed a document to Zuemo. The woman is a mutant named Silok who is from the same period as us. She used to work for the mutant intelligence merchant Caliban. I don't know why she ran here with others. The other one is also a mutant, but I can't find any information about him, and the other party's power is so strong that even I can't keep him. Hearing this, Zuemo opened the document in his hand and looked inside. Looking at the blue face in the photo above. Apocalypse, Egypt. In the ruins of a pyramid. Apocalypse looked doubtful about life. At this time, he still felt weak from time to time in his sea of consciousness being pressed under the pyramid for thousands of years. Because of the entry of several archaeologists, he was able to see the light of day again. Originally, he thought that he would reorganize the Four Horsemen and stage a scene of the king's return, but he didn't expect that the Four Horsemen would be killed here and become prisoners before they were gathered. The ancestor of mutants, almost invincible among the mutants in this world now. The only one who can suppress him steadily seems to be the White Queen, who has practiced the secret magic of illusion. Unfortunately, after he came out, he happened to find the White Queen first. It can't be blamed on him, but only on his bad luck. However, he was not discouraged, since he knew that the other party's psychic ability was strong. He could naturally respond to this aspect. In the laboratory of the Island of Death. Zuemo looked at Silok, who was being controlled by several collars wearing purple clothes similar to ninja clothes on her body. It really made men look at it again after seeing it for the first time. For her, Zuemo had nothing to ask. Originally, according to the development of the story in X-Men, Apocalypse should have been excavated by a group of archaeological teams after the restart of the timeline. After that, they found Storm, Silok, Angel and Old One, and reformed the Four Horsemen of Apocalypse. Intended to regain the rule of the world. But now it seems that the other party seems to have run out for some reason at this time. And after recruiting Silok, he came to find Magneto. Unfortunately, he was frightened away by the White Queen. He took out a slave chip directly, took a drop of Silok's blood, and ripped it on it. After the chip absorbed the blood, it turned into a stream of light and sank into Silok's brow. Slave chip, mechanical family technology. After fusion, it will be completely controlled, retain all the original memories, and be completely loyal to the master from the heart. The points required for redemption: 1000 points. Watching the slave chip merge into her body. Zuemo waved his hand behind him. 2 laboratory staff members stepped forward and took off the ability suppression collar from her body. Silok stood up and stretched her arms and legs, then bowed respectfully to Zuemo. Master. Seeing this, Emma, the White Queen, who followed behind Zuemo, showed a look of shock on her face. She could feel from her eyes that Silok was truly submissive to Zuemo. This was obviously the effect of the chip just now. Zuemo asked her about it. Sure enough, it was no different from what he had guessed. After waving his hand to let his men take Silok away and arrange it, Zuemo and the White Queen returned to the room. As soon as he entered the door, the White Queen sat directly on his lap and asked impatiently, "What? Did you fuse with her just now?" Zuemo felt the softness on his legs and said indifferently, "Slave chip." Emma nodded. She could understand what it was just by hearing the name. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart that there were so many strange things on Zuemo. After hesitating for a while, she asked softly, "Then, why don't you install that thing on me? You know, the entire force is under my control now. Do you trust me so much?" Zuemo chuckled lightly when he saw the other party's serious expression. "Because I have opened the channels to your heart, of course I will believe you. Of Course, the main reason is that compared to Zuemo, they are too weak. Coupled with his own restraint on his psychic abilities, the other party poses no threat to him at all. After hearing this, the White Queen's face flashed with emotion. In this case, boss, would you like to explore people's hearts again? 2 hours later, Zuemo walked out of the room and saw Annie standing not far away with a somewhat unhappy face. I knew it wasn't that simple between you two, Anne muttered, but she didn't say much. Having been Zuemo's girlfriend for several years, this was not the first time this happened. Besides, these were all explained in advance when the two became boyfriend and girlfriend, and she has long been used to it. Zuemo didn't explain, but asked, when did you come back? It's not appropriate to say anything now, so the best way is to change the topic. The day before yesterday, I just heard that you were coming back too, so I came here to find you. Annie replied with a smile. Although he was in seclusion, Zuemo would come out every month or so. After all, under 20-fold acceleration, almost a year has passed in 1 month outside, and he always has to come out to communicate with others after Annie figured out his pattern. During this period, I often went to see Wanda and stayed for nearly a month each time. The relationship between the two is also improving day by day. Back in the villa, Zuemo helped the other party identify the owner of a black god suit. Anne excitedly kept changing the style of her coat in the room. After a while, the familiar tight-fitting leather suit of Catwoman appeared on her body, and 2 more cat ear headdresses appeared on her head. He bent over and leaned on the sofa, his waist bent into an astonishing arc. Then he took off the cat-eared blindfold on his head and looked at Zuemo beside him. My dear, do you want to experience the joy of Batman again? Chapter 80, Xavier Academy for Young Talents. Xavier School for Young Talented People. Located in a private estate on Staten Island, New York. The estate covers an area of more than 300 acres except for the main building complex in the center. The surrounding area is like a garden with green grass and shade. At the easternmost position, there is an artificial lake of more than 10,000 square meters. As a bell rang, boys and girls of different ages walked out of the classroom building holding books and walked towards the shade of the trees by the lake. At this time, a space door appeared in the open space in front of the building. Then a man wearing a helmet and dark purple skin walked out. It was Apocalypse, who left the island of Death. In order to prevent the influence of the White Queen's psychic ability, he specially created a helmet that can isolate psychic abilities. But he was still a little worried. Decided to find some more men as helpers. The X-Men and Xavier School for Talented People are not big secrets in the world. Naturally, he found this place. The students looked at the sudden appearance of Apocalypse, and there was not much surprise on their faces. After all, most of the students in this academy are mutants, and there are quite a few mutants with strange appearances at this time. A male teacher noticed the situation here and came up. Hello. Who are you looking for? Cheyenne Key glanced at the other party after hearing this. Ordinary people. Although the students in Xavier Young Talent Academy are all mutants among the teachers, except for the teachers who teach them to control their own abilities, most of the rest are ordinary people found by Professor X. After realizing that the other party is an ordinary person, Cheyenne Key showed a trace of contempt on his face. Then his eyes moved. The man in his 30s standing in front of him sank and fell into the mud under him. Only one arm was left outside, and after struggling for a while, the arm fell down, as if it lost power. The students around saw this scene and screamed. Then they fled in all directions. The principal's office. Located on the top floor of the manor building. Professor X was sitting in a wheelchair behind his desk. He was saying something to Aurora in front of him. At this moment, his expression changed. As one of the most powerful mutants, he could naturally feel the emotions of these students in the academy. He controlled the wheelchair to the window and looked down. He just met Apocalypse, who was looking over. Apocalypse saw Professor X and showed excitement on his face. He could feel that the other party's ability was somewhat similar to that of the woman he met before. As long as he took over the body of this mutant, it would not be difficult to defeat the woman with his huge mental power. Although he was wearing this helmet, he could prevent the intrusion of the other party's ability. But in his opinion, who claimed to be a god, it was a humiliation for him to defeat the woman with a helmet. In the office. Aurora looked at Professor X by the window and spoke in confusion. What? happened. Then, he walked towards the window. But before she took a few steps, a space door appeared on the side, and Apocalypse walked out from it. Aurora was shocked when he saw this. Turning back to Professor X, he looked at her with a vigilant face. Who are you? Cheyenne turned his head and glanced at her. The one who can let you completely release yourself. As he said that, his eyeballs turned white, which was a sign that he was going to activate his standing in front of him. Aurora's expression changed. She felt that the energy in her body was growing rapidly. Under the riot of power, her body floated up uncontrollably. Professor X's face changed drastically when he saw this scene. Cheyenne-K's helmet made ability it impossible for him to affect the other party. Seeing the movement around Aurora's body getting bigger and bigger, he wanted to control the wheelchair to stop the other party, but under the storm energy around Aurora, he couldn't get close at all. It wasn't until a minute later that Aurora's body fell back to the ground. After coming back to her senses, Aurora showed a look of shock on her face. In just over a minute, she felt that her ability was at least twice as strong as before. He looked at the other party with horror. Who are you? This world originally belonged to us mutants, but those humans took it away. I will lead you to take it back. Hearing this, Professor X on the side moved his wheelchair forward. No, this world belongs to all humans. Apocalypse ignored him, but his eyes moved. Professor X's wheelchair flew up directly under his control point. Then a space door opened behind Apocalypse. Follow me, he said to Aurora, and then controlled Professor X's wheelchair and walked into the space door with him. However, Apocalypse obviously overestimated his own appeal. A bolt of lightning struck in front of him, stopping him. Apocalypse was stunned and turned to look at Aurora behind him. The current Aurora was obviously not the young girl who was strengthened by him after reversing the future and let him send her. Put down the professor. Aurora's body floated up again, and lightning flashed around. A lightning barrier was even placed between Apocalypse and the portal. Apocalypse was furious when he saw this. Okay, it seems that after so many years, you mutants have become the running dogs of humans. It's time for you to wake up. As soon as the voice fell, the wall of the whole room broke into pieces and flew towards Aurora, smashing her out directly. At this time, Wolverine, Colossus and Iceman also got the news and came to the room. Seeing the only person who didn't know Apocalypse and the professor who was held hostage by him, they instantly understood the situation in front of them. Wolverine Logan clenched his fists, and the claw blades of adamantium stretched out from his fingers. Without any hesitation, he rushed up with Colossus. But before they got close, they were hit by a pile of rubble and flew out. The ice released by Iceman was also blocked outside by the protective shield around Apocalypse. Being provoked one after another, Apocalypse was also furious. The humiliation of the defeat suffered by the White Queen surged up instantly. Welcome, God's wrath. He waved his hands. The whole building began to gradually turn into sand. Then it turned into a sand and flew towards the surroundings. The sand seemed to turn into a sharp blade and passed through the neck of Wolverine, who jumped up again. Wolverine's body fell back to the ground after jumping up. After a ho-ho sound came out of his mouth because of the trachea being cut. The wound on his neck healed quickly. Fortunately, after the scene just now, the students in the academy had already escaped. A moment later, the whole building turned into flying sand under the power of Apocalypse. Storm, Colossus and Wolverine stood on the periphery and had no way to get close to the center. However, the flying sand quickly flew towards them. After dodging several times, several people were all wrapped up by the flying sand, leaving only a head exposed. After that, the figures of several people flew towards the center. The yellow sand in the sky gradually calmed down. Asshole, put us down. Wolverine Logan roared at Apocalypse. Don't worry, I will, but only after you become my loyal servant. His plan was very simple. After taking Professor X's ability, he controlled them with his psychic power. After saying that, he led a few people into the portal. At this time, a purple spark flashed by, and another portal opened next to it. It looks a bit lively. Zoo. Emo stepped out of the portal. Chapter 81. Capturing Apocalypse alive. Now that we know that Death Island has been targeted by Apocalypse, who came out. How Could Zuemo leave the other party alone? If a prepared opponent comes to their door while they are away, they may not be able to deal with the White Queen on the island. The only one who can affect it is the White Queen, who can easily find a way to restrain it. After all, he knew that Apocalypse had the ability to create a helmet that was immune to psychic abilities. It is not difficult to find the other party point apart from the ruins of the pyramid in Egypt where he changed his body. The most likely place for the other party to come is Xavier Academy point. Sure enough, I saw this scene. As soon as I came over looking at the helmet on the other person's head, Zuemo had a real expression point. Professor, go quickly and find Daniel the Guardian. With the ability to read other people's memories, Professor X naturally knows that there is a group of magicians in the world. He also personally visited Daniel, the keeper of the New York Temple and saw the magic of Magic at this time. He saw this familiar appearance. Although the color of the portal was a little different, he didn't understand the mystery and still attributed the two to the same person. Although I have never met the mage in front of me, generally speaking, magic becomes more sophisticated as you get older. No matter how you look at it, the 20-year-old young man in front of you cannot be a great mage. That's why he shouted out. Chyanki heard the sound and turned his head to look over. After seeing Zuemo, he instantly sensed that the other person was not one of their mutants. A lowly ordinary human being? You are not even qualified to be my slave. After saying that, Chyanki controlled the yellow sand on the ground and drew towards Zuemo's neck. Seeing that the yellow sand was about to touch the other party still stayed where he was. The look on Professor X's face changed. Oops. According to the current situation, the mage on the opposite side obviously cannot escape. Chyanki also showed a hint of contempt on his face. When I saw the other party's calm appearance, I thought he was some great person. But I didn't expect it to be a waste. Thinking of this, Chyanki turned around and was about to enter the space door behind him. But when he turned around, he suddenly saw Zuemo standing in front of him. I was shocked. When did the other party come over? You must know that the abilities he gained include dynamic vision ability. Even he didn't see the other party's movements. He had a bad feeling in his heart and hurriedly retreated towards the rear. But it's obviously too late. Before he could see Zuemo's movements clearly, the opponent's fist had already arrived. Fortunately, at the last moment, he put up a purple protective shield. Zuemo's fist hit the protective shield, which shattered instantly, and then his fist hit his shoulder with a huge force of 10,000 tons. Boom. Chyanki's body fell directly from the air under Zuemo's blow. A large crater with a diameter of several tens of meters was made on the ground. This is because Zuemo only used 1/3 of his strength. If the force of 300,000 tons were exerted, he might be able to beat the opponent to death with one punch. Only 1/3 of the force, 100,000 tons of force, was weakened by the protective shield, but it still knocked Chyanki unconscious. After falling into the pit, Zuemo lifted up Chyanki, who had fainted, with one hand. At this time, Chyanki looked a little miserable. His whole chest collapsed, and it seemed that all the internal organs and bones in his body had been shattered. If it were not connected by the skin, the opponent would have been broken into two parts. The armor on his body didn't know where it flew after it shattered. Fortunately, the other party has super self-healing ability. Otherwise, this could kill the other person. So unbeatable? Zuemo looked at the other party's body, which was already in tatters, and muttered. In his opinion, as the ancestor of mutants, Apocalypse, who has more than a dozen mutant abilities, could not beat him, but he had to hold on for a while longer. Unexpectedly, he was instantly knocked down by a casual blow. In fact, it's not his fault. After all, Apocalypse's abilities seem to be incredibly strong, and he can easily control Shashuo to form a huge pyramid. But these are special abilities like Magneto. It has nothing to do with whether you are physically strong or not, or whether you can resist being beaten. Just like Magneto, under the control of magnetism, he can move hundreds of thousands of tons of the Golden Gate Bridge, but if he relies on his body, he will be beaten by Mystique Raven. And Apocalypse, who has super speed and super strength, is already very powerful. With this physical quality, I'm afraid he can stand up to Hulk. Head to head point being able to survive under his power is already a sign that the opponent is strong enough point. It's not that the opponent is too good, but that he is too powerful point. After all, in the early stages of the devouring method, what they are best at is frontal combat point. On the side, Professor, there are so many craters on the ground. Why are you blaming the opponent for not resisting the beating? Even Wolverine, who always had a bad mouth, didn't speak when he heard the other party's pretentious words. He wasn't sure whether he could withstand the opponent's punch point. Professor X stared blankly at the scene in front of him. He seemed to remember that Daniel the Guardian said that their mages were not good at close combat. You call this not good at close combat? If the legendary dragon comes, they will probably get a few slaps in the face. Zuemo took out a slave chip and stained a trace of blood on Apocalypse point. The other party's recovery speed did not seem to be slow point. In such a short time, his chest had gradually swelled up again point. Watching the chip turn into a stream of light and enter the other party's eyebrows, Zuemo's hand holding his neck dropped down and turned to look at Professor X behind him. Professor X noticed the other party's gaze. He quickly controlled the wheelchair under him and walked up. Thank you for your help, sir. Say hello to Daniel the Guardian for me. Hearing the other party's words, Zuemo's face showed a puzzled look point. Just now, he heard Professor X say something about Daniel. Now the other party mentioned the other party again and asked him to say hello to the other party. Daniel, Guardian, New York Temple. Thinking of the portal he had cast, Zuemo understood it instantly. The other party should have mistaken him for the mages of Kamatage. But it is understandable. After all, to an outsider, his space gate is almost the same as Kamatage's except for the color. Thinking of this, Zuemo did not deny it. He took a look at the mess around him. It seems that you will need to be busy for a while. I won't bother you. After saying that, he carried Apocalypse and stepped into the portal. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82 Lies don't hurt people, the truth is the sharpest knife. New York point. A private yacht port point. The car that Zuemo and Tony were riding in slowly stopped point. Seeing a short-haired woman waiting by the yacht, Zuemo's expression changed point. This person was none other than Natasha, the Black Widow point. Noticing the look in Zuemo's eyes when he looked at Natasha point, Tony introduced her proudly. This is my newly hired assistant. How is it? But as a person who has been through it, I advise you not to hit on her. At this point, Tony's expression changed, as if he remembered some bad memories. Assistant, Zuemo smiled point. It seems that the plot of Iron Man 2 has begun point. Natasha's eyes lit up when she saw Zuemo getting out of the car. In the past year or so, Zuemo seemed to have disappeared, and he could not find his figure anywhere point. After hearing about the mission of the Stark Group, she took the initiative to take it on, with the purpose of seeing if she could find Zuemo's trace point. Unexpectedly, she really met him here point. Led by Tony, Zuemo and his partner walked towards a luxury yacht docked at the port point. When passing by Natasha point, Tony introduced the two parties. Zuemo knew it point. At this time, Nick Fury had already planned to establish the Avengers. The main reason why Natasha hid her identity and worked at the Stark Group was to test Tony and see if he had the potential to become an Avenger. There was no malice. Therefore, he did not intend to expose the other party's identity. As the two gradually let go of their hands, Natasha took the initiative to ask, I wonder if I have the honor to have dinner with you tonight. Hearing this, before Zuemo could speak, Tony on the side shouted first, what? Why? Miss Natasha, I have asked you out 3 times, but you didn't agree. You actually took the initiative to ask Zu out. Tony doubted his life for a while. You know, whether facing various movie stars and models before, he relied on his superpowers to be invincible point. The only thing he was frustrated with was this newly hired assistant point. He invited her several times, but she didn't agree. How am I worse than him? I made circuit boards at the age of 4, engines at the age of 6, and obtained 2 doctoral degrees at the age of 17. Tony, whose self-confidence was hit, stared at Natasha and chattered point. Natasha looked at him calmly after hearing this. Do You have to say it. Hearing the other party's calm words, Tony stopped talking and put his hands down. Okay. I wish you a pleasant dinner tonight, but we don't have time now. After saying that, he pulled Zuemo up and walked towards the yacht without saying anything. Seeing the other party's shocked look, Zuemo almost laughed out loud. Until the yacht sailed out of the port, Tony still had a trace of resentment on his face. I think there must be something wrong with the other party's aesthetics, although he had to admit in his heart that he and Zuemo were a little different in appearance point, but he would never admit it. Really, Zuemo held a glass of champagne with a hint of playfulness on his face. I wonder if you have heard a saying. What saying? Tony took a sip of the wine glass. Lies don't hurt people. The truth is the sharpest knife. Tony. After the yacht slowly sailed to the high seas, Tony looked at the boat full of bikinis and his mood recovered a lot. The two sat on the sightseeing deck on the top of the yacht. Point around them, a dozen supermodels in their 20s were laughing and joking in bikinis. Yachts are naturally more suitable for bikinis. These models seemed to be chatting and playing, but they intentionally or unintentionally showed their bodies to the two. You know, the two of them are rich people in America. Not expecting to be their girlfriend, as long as they can have a night of communication with any of them. Even one of the communicators can save them a few years of detours. If one of them likes them. Keep in touch for a while. I'm afraid they won't have to worry about money in this life. Zuemo and Tony were enjoying the beautiful scenery while chatting. By the way, I'm going to Morocco for an F1 race next month. Do you want to go with me? Tony asked casually. Not interested. Zuemo shook his head, but he knew it very well in his heart. This should be the race where he was attacked. Although he knew that the other party would be safe in the end, as a friend, he kindly reminded him, this kind of racing car seems to be a bit dangerous. I think it's better for you to wear the armor when the time comes. Hearing this, Tony was stunned. Ah, you kidding? Let's not talk about whether it is allowed in the competition. Do you think I can't even control a racing car? Tony felt that Zuemo was questioning his ability. The other party was questioning him professionalism. You know, he can control the armor. That is several times more complicated than controlling a racing car, as if it were his arm. So a mere car is not a problem for him. Seeing the other party's excitement, Zuemo shook his head. Okay, since you insist, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about something else. Hearing Zuemo say this, Tony sat down again. If I remember correctly, the beneficiary of your will is Pepper, right? Hearing this, Tony's face showed a vigilant look. Why are you asking this? Nothing. I just think that if you really have any accidents, how happy you will be if you marry Pepper. Not only will you spend your money. Stop. Hearing this, Tony hurriedly stopped Zuemo. Okay, he spread his hands. You successfully moved me. You do have some unique talent in persuading people. Hearing this, Zuemo smiled softly. Can I understand that you are complimenting me? Of course. For a whole morning, the yacht floated on the high seas according to the plan. The yacht will stay on the sea for a whole day. In addition to a dozen young models on the boat, there are only a few crew members driving the yacht. I don't know if Tony did it on purpose. There was no male on the boat, except the two of them, including the crew. Afternoon. There was no one on the deck. According to the old rules, the boat will play in the morning and return to the port in the evening. As for the afternoon. Of course, it is time to taste seafood. The life of the rich is so simple and unpretentious. Chapter 83. Natasha refuses to give up. New York. In a western restaurant in Manhattan. I told you that it was a thank you gift for protecting Annie. You don't have to do it. Zuemo stuffed a piece of steak into his mouth and said casually, of course not. Natasha looked serious. I went to protect Annie, but Shield paid me a salary, which is completely different. Besides, the gift you gave me is too expensive. The more she practiced the secret method that Zuemo taught her, the more she could feel the power of the secret method. Now with her strength, it feels effortless to deal with the previous 10 of herself. As an agent, this undoubtedly greatly enhances her survival ability. After hearing this, Zuemo did not comment. The first 5 levels of the Thunderblade he gave to the other party did not include the cultivation method of guiding and genetic energy point of course. Just practicing with the above Thunderblade method can also slowly improve one's own strength, but the extent is limited. I am afraid that if you can reach the level of a junior warrior, you are already a gifted person. Even if you rely on the amplitude of force, you can only match the strength of an intermediate warrior at most. If you meet a soldier who has just entered the intermediate warrior, you may not be his opponent. After all, force skills are force skills after all. You can increase it several times in a certain attack, but if you keep increasing it, your body will be the first to be unable to bear it. How can a junior warrior's physical strength withstand the combat intensity of an intermediate warrior for a long time? After taking a sip of red wine, Zuemo asked tentatively, have you ever thought about changing jobs? Natasha was stunned for a moment when she heard this, then a smile appeared on her face. I guess you are not asking about this job at Stark Group. So you mean you want me to quit my job at SHIELD and work with you? Zuemo nodded. Of course, the reason why Zuemo gave her the secret method of the Thunderblade was naturally to recruit the other party under his command. Although she is just an ordinary person now, she has joined the Avengers alliance full of technology and mutations with the strength of an ordinary person, which in itself shows a problem. If there is a training method, the other party's strength is definitely the best at the same stage. If the super soldier serum is also injected, Captain America will definitely not be her opponent. Similarly, Black Widow, who has obtained Spider-Man's ability, can definitely beat Spider-Man. After all, the inhumane training conducted in the Red Room makes them born to be a fighting machine. Seeing Zuemo's serious look, Black Widow also thought seriously. A big reason why she joined SHIELD was because of Hawkeye Barton. The other party was more like a brother and sister relationship with her and made her feel the feeling of home for a long time. After thinking for a while, Natasha shook her head. Sorry, thank you very much for your invitation, but I have no plans to leave SHIELD for the time being. Zuemo did not show any surprise at the other party's answer. If the other party could agree so easily, she would not be Black Widow. He is just planting a seed in the other party's heart now. After the disbandment of the SHIELD, she would naturally consider this. After finishing dinner, Zuemo sent Natasha home. After getting off the car, Natasha looked at Zuemo sitting in the driver's seat, hesitated for a moment and then spoke. Do you want to come down and do it? Is it convenient? Zuemo asked hesitantly. Of course, I'm the only one at home, so it's not inconvenient. Looking at the time on the watch, it was almost 11 o'clock. Facing this almost naked invitation, Zuemo naturally had no reason to refuse. Now the other party is lurking beside Tony. Naturally, he can no longer live in the dormitory of SHIELD. So he rented a small house in Manhattan. When Zuemo was looking at the neat environment in the room, Natasha had taken out a bottle of red wine from the side. Do you want to drink more? Yes. An hour later, 2 more bottles of red wine were drunk. At this time, Natasha's face was already flushed, and there was a hint of inexplicable meaning in her eyes. When she looked at Zuemo, she stood up and came to Zuemo's side. I have learned a lot about your previous deeds during this period. Why are you interested in me? Zuemo looked at her with a playful look. Natasha smiled gently. There is indeed a little bit, but it's just a little bit. As she said that, she stretched out her hand and brushed Zuemo's face. How could Zuemo allow the other party to provoke her? She directly pulled the other party and let her sit on her lap. It doesn't matter. After tonight, it won't be just a little bit. A sleepless night. It was not until the sun slowly rose that the two fell asleep. But they just slept for a short time. A mobile phone rang beside them. Zuemo answered the phone in a daze. Who? Zuemo, Tony exclaimed on the phone. On the top floor of Stark Tower. Tony looked at the number on the phone in disbelief. He did not dial the wrong number. It was indeed Natasha's number. Suddenly, Tony understood. Zuemo and Natasha should be together, and judging from each other's voices, they were obviously woken up from their sleep. Tony knew what happened last night without even thinking about it. Originally, he wanted to call and ask why Natasha hadn't come to work at this time, but he didn't expect that this would be the case. After he got through He could already imagine in his mind how crazy the two people opposite him were last night. Otherwise, I wouldn't still be sleeping now. Thinking of this, the envy and jealousy in Tony's heart almost overflowed from his mouth. Zoo, you are simply going too far. You still have shares in the company. How can you affect the company's employees from going to work because of personal matters? This is seriously interfering with the normal operation of the company. Tony hasn't finished speaking yet point, and heard the beep hang up sound on the other side point. He was so angry that he almost threw the phone away point. Other side point. Zuemo hung up the phone and looked at Natasha, who had been woken up point at this time. Natasha's face looked exhausted point. She took the phone and looked at it point. Sure enough, it was already 10 o'clock in the morning point. From last night to now, she had only slept for less than 2 hours. If it weren't for her strength and body after years of training and practicing Thunder Knife, she might have fainted by now. Looking at Zuema beside him, he was full of energy after waking up. Natasha was angry. Her unwillingness to admit defeat made her stand up and pin Zuemo down. What do you want to do, Zu? Emo looked at the other party's eyes that were forced open. Since you taught me the force generating technique, you must be more proficient. Seeing Zuemo nodded, Natasha had an inexplicable smile on her face. Then, you should experience it for yourself and see if my way of exerting force is correct. Chapter 84, An Invitation from Kamatage. When Zuemo left Natasha's house point, it was already after 3 o'clock in the afternoon point. He drove directly to the Empire State Building on 5th Avenue in Manhattan point. The New York branch of Zuemo's Fox Film Company is located in this building point. After taking over the company, Zuemo moved the company's headquarters to Los Angeles. He came to the floor where the company was located. The receptionist was an Asian girl, nearly 1.7 meters tall, with long silver white hair combed into a ponytail hanging behind her head. She seemed to be capable and youthful. Seeing Zuemo coming in, the girl stood up. Sir, who are you looking for? Hearing the other party's words, Zuemo stepped back, looked at the floor and the number outside the door, and confirmed that this was the location of his company. He asked, "Are you new here?" The girl nodded, then looked at Zuemo in confusion. "Who are you?" "He is our boss." At this time, a voice came from inside point. Avril, dressed in a capable all outfit, walked out from inside point. It looked like she was going out point. Hearing Avril's words, the girl quickly apologized to Zuemo. "I'm sorry, boss," as the company's front desk. The girl's face turned red for a moment. After stopping the boss outside the door, Zuemo waved his hand. "It's okay. I did a good job and fulfilled my duties." After that, he walked inside. Avril, who was about to go out, naturally followed him back to the office. Along the way, he saw his employees and greeted him. Entering the office, Zuemo sat down on the office chair in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and sighed. It seems that there are many new faces in the company during this period. Avril heard this and said unhappily, "You haven't been to the company for nearly 2 years. Except for the front desk, everyone has been employed for at least more than a year. Has it been so long?" Hearing this, Zuemo's face also showed a trace of embarrassment. It seems that after awakening the system, Zuemo has hardly come to the company, and everything has been left to Avril. Although he seldom came to the company after the company got on track, he would always come a few times a year, not like now, more thoroughly than Tony. No wonder Avril's words were full of resentment. Avril and Zuemo were college classmates after graduation. Avril came to the company and served as Zuemo's assistant. He was meticulous at work. But in private, the two seemed like good friends, occasionally making some harmless jokes. This was also the reason why Zuemo was relieved to hand over the company to him. While the two were chatting, the receptionist knocked on the door and walked in. "Boss, there is a man outside who claims to be Daniel looking for you." "Daniel? Why is this name inexplicably familiar?" "Wait, Zoo." Emo suddenly recalled that this was not the wizard that Professor X mentioned. The other party was probably from Kamatage. After all, it seems that all the wizards in this world, except for black magicians like himself, are from Kamatage. A few minutes later in the company's reception room. Zuemo met the wizard named Daniel. A black-bald strong man. The strong man was wearing a gray sleeveless cloth, exposing his 2 strong arms. Looking at the other party's sturdy biceps, Zuemo couldn't connect the other party with the wizard. After all, when hearing the word wizard, most people's impression is a gentle old man with a white beard. It seems that the wizards in this world all look strong. This may also be related to the attributes of the wizards in this world. After all, it is a dimension under the command of Vishanti, and they practice white magic, not good at attacking, and all of them are some auxiliary means. These wizards are forced to go forward and swing their fists with others when fighting. Even the Supreme Wizard Ancient One is no exception. Only the later Doctor Strange is relatively better. This may also be the reason why the other party is a latecomer and his fighting skills are not qualified. Of course, this is just Zuemo's guess, but he thinks this possibility is very high. Who likes to jump up and down when you can kill the enemy with a wave of your hand while chatting and laughing? After the black man sat down opposite Zuemo, he stretched out his hand. Daniel, from the New York Temple, is a guardian of the temple. Zuemo stretched out his hand and shook the other party. Zuemo didn't have any impression of this person. After all, after so many years, his memory of the movie has long been blurred, and he was not surprised that the other party could find him. When he went to Xavier College, he did not cover his face. With the ability of Professor X and others, it is not difficult to find out his identity. Professor X is my best friend. Thank you for helping Professor Time, Zuemo waved his hand indifferently and said directly, the guardian of the temple, wouldn't he come to thank you specially? Zuemo also guessed some of the other party's purpose. It's nothing more than a matter of performing black magic on your own. Since the other party can get accurate information from Professor X, then he can't be unaware that the space gate he cast is not the magic of Kamatage. Of course. Daniel smiled. I'm here to invite you to visit Kamatage on the orders of the Supreme Master. Oh, Zuemo looked at the other party in surprise. According to the character of the Ancient One, the other party should not use other people's mouths to pass on the news. It is a matter of the space gate itself, and there is no need to use other people's mouths to invite himself to Kamatage. Zuemo asked with a smile on his face. Master, Ancient One invited me, and you, the guardian of the temple, actually need to pass on the message? Faced with his doubts, Daniel's eyes flashed with a barely perceptible panic. However, the other party quickly suppressed this panic. Of course not. I just want to thank you in person. Really, Zuemo showed a hint of playfulness on his face. The panic in the other party's eyes just now was easily captured by him. He was almost certain that the other party was lying. Okay, then I'll go to Kamatage with you. Zuemo changed his tone and directly agreed to the other party's invitation. He planned to see what the other party was up to. With his current strength, there was nothing to be afraid of. Even if the Ancient One Master personally took action, he would not be able to stop him. Even if Vishanti came, he had nothing to fear, or he could not wait for the other party to take action. As long as he hid in the Star Tower, the other party would not know the truth and might attack the Star Tower. In this case, Crossing G would not sit idly by. If that happened, maybe he could have 2 more books of Vishanti. The kind made of materials from Vishanti. Besides, he also wanted to see the magic holy land of Kamatage. Hearing Zuemo's agreement, Daniel showed a hint of excitement on his face. After the other party's doubtful words came out, he thought Zuemo would refuse, but he did not expect that the other party would agree to his invitation despite doubting the authenticity of the matter. This way please. Daniel showed the ring in his hand and drew a circle and the aerospace door appeared in the room. Zuemo did not hesitate and followed him in. A few minutes later, a secretary in black silk stockings walked into the room with coffee and looked at the empty room. Where is a person? Chapter 85 The Supreme Mage's Request. Crossing the space gate. Zuemo found himself in a courtyard with ancient Chinese architectural style. The building stood on the top of a mountain. There were groups of buildings of this type around. In a building courtyard slightly lower than this one, people in cloth robes were practicing magic. One golden magic circle after another was generated and disappeared in front of them. At this time, a figure came out from behind. Master Daniel, are there guests? Zuemo turned his head and saw a bold woman in a yellow robe holding a small wooden fan in her hand. At this time, the other party was looking at the two of them with a smile on her face. Obviously, this person is the Supreme Mage, Guyi. Daniel heard this. He quickly saluted Guyi. Then he stood next to Guyi and looked at Zuemo and said, Master Guyi, this person is a practitioner of black magic. Guyi waved his hand at him, indicating that he didn't need to say anything more. As the Supreme Mage, how could Daniel hide what he did from her? Otherwise she would not be waiting for them here. Master Daniel, I want to talk to him alone. When the other party heard this, he was stunned for a moment, then saluted Guyi, stared at Zuemo fiercely, and turned to walk to the back point. But how could Zuemo let the other party leave so easily? With a flash of his figure, he was about to teach the other party a lesson. Although it was his original intention to come here, it did not mean that he would let the other party deceive him like this and remain indifferent. Wait, Gu. Yi stretched out his hand to stop him, with an apologetic expression on his face. I apologize to you on his behalf. If apologies are useful, what do we need the police for? Zuemo was unmoved and disappeared directly on the spot. Seeing this, Master Guyi shook his head and did not stop him. After all, Daniel was indeed at fault in this matter. Daniel, who walked a distance away, naturally heard the conversation between the two and understood that Zuemo wanted to deal with him. He turned around and took a fighting stance, and a golden circle like a magic circle appeared in each of his hands. However, this was useless to Zuemo. Before he could react, Zuemo's fist had hit his abdomen. Daniel's figure flashed and disappeared. When he appeared again, he had crashed into the mountain wall hundreds of meters away, and his whole body was embedded in the mountain wall. A trace of blood with internal organs spurted out of his mouth. Then Daniel fainted directly. Looking at his miserable appearance, Master Guyi waved his hand, and the other party's body flew out of the mountain wall, and then sank into a room in the distance. Your anger should be gone now. Zuemo nodded. Originally, he thought that Guyi would stop him. Although the mistake was on the other party, Daniel was a member of the magic temple after all. As the Supreme Mage, it would not be surprising to protect his subordinate Zuemo. But he did not expect that the other party would let him vent his anger. It can only be said that he is worthy of being the Supreme Mage. Since Guyi gave him face, he did not do it too drastically. If he had put his punch on an ordinary person, he would have been crushed long ago. However, with his strong body and magical treatment, he would be able to recover in 3 or 4 years at most and return to be the guardian of the New York Sanctuary. It would be just in time for Casillas, who defected to Dormammu, to rebel and be crushed by Casillas. Perfect. A few minutes later, Zuemo and Master Guyi sat opposite each other in a room. He handed the tea in his hand to Zuemo. Try it. It comes from your hometown. Thank you. Zuemo took it and tasted it. For him who does not drink tea, it seems to be no different from a few dollars a bottle of tea. More than a year ago, the aura of Sithan appeared on Earth. It should be related to you. Master Guyi put down the teapot in his hand and asked without raising his head. Zuemo nodded. Only then did he realize that the last time Sithan appeared with the Dark Book, Master Guyi had already sensed his aura. Now, it seems that you are not affected by the other party's black magic. Zuemo glanced at him. Master, you are the same. Guyi heard this and shook his hand, and the tea in the teacup spilled directly. You know, in order to maintain her life and resist the invasion of the Dark Dimension, she had to draw energy from the Dark Dimension. Strictly speaking, there is not much difference between her and Zuemo. Putting down the teacup in her hand, Guyi took a deep breath. His expression returned to calm again. Although I noticed your extraordinariness, I didn't expect you to know this. Master, can you observe my past and future? Zuemo asked in surprise. He had asked the system before. According to the system, under the effect of Eternal One, the traces of his past on the timeline have been completely erased. Logically, no one can observe his past. No, Master. Guyi shook his head, but this is exactly the key. After hearing this, Zuemo finally understood. Indeed, with the Time Stone, Master Ancient One can observe the past and future of anyone. But he was the only one who couldn't see through it. This just shows that he is unusual. I wonder why the Master asked me to come to Kamatage. Oh, Yi pretended to have a look of doubt on his face. Don't you already know the truth? Daniel tricked you here. The corners of Zuemo's mouth slightly raised. Master, you should know that I'm the boss of a film and television company. With your acting skills, you are not even as good as the supporting actors signed by our company. Ancient Yi, who could see through the timeline, knew that Daniel would deceive him. So, if he wanted to stop it, it would be easy. Although he couldn't see his reaction afterwards. After thinking about it, he understood that he would not let Daniel go easily. The other party took the risk of killing Daniel and allowed the other party to deceive him. He did not think that the other party did it unintentionally. When Guyi heard this, a smile appeared on his face. You're much smarter than I thought. I do have something to ask for your help with. Tell me and listen. Gu Yippen poured tea into their teacups. I relied on the time stone to observe that in a few years, this world will usher in the invasion of the dark dimension. But because the end of my life will come before then, I have no way to check the future situation through gems. If I don't deal with it well, it will probably lead to the direct destruction of this world. Speaking of this, Guyi looked at Zuemo seriously. So, I think if you have the ability, you can stop it. Hearing this, Zuemo looked stunned. You mean there's no way to observe what happens after you die? When Guyi heard this, he looked at Zuemo helplessly. His focus seemed to be a little different. Yes, the observation ability of the time stone is not unlimited. With it, you can only observe things related to yourself. Theoretically, as long as you want to observe someone, that person is already related to you, which seems to be omnipotent. But in fact, there is no way to observe what happens after your death. Because everything that happens after that has nothing to do with me. Chapter 86. Ancient Master's Shock. You don't need to worry about this kind of thing, Master. I also live in this world, so I naturally can't let this world be destroyed. Master Guyi shook his head. No, it is the responsibility of all the Supreme Masters to protect this world. Since you agreed, I will naturally pay the corresponding reward. Tell me, do you have anything you want? Guyi looked at Zuemo seriously. Hearing this, Zuemo was stunned. Why did he feel something was wrong? Guyi seemed to be impatient to give something. However, Zuemo didn't bother to care about the other party's plan. With his strength, no one could force him to do anything he didn't want to do. Anything is fine. Zuemo's eyes moved and confirmed with the other party. Tell me and see. I need the time gem. Since he decided to follow the path of the law of time and space in the future, he must get the space and time gems himself. These two gems should be of great help to his own understanding of the law. Hearing this, Guyi didn't hesitate at all. Okay, since you don't agree. Zuemo's face suddenly changed when he was halfway through his words. What did you say? He suspected that he had heard wrongly. As the magic of Kamatage, the core of the Eye of Agamotto, the other party agreed to hand it over to him so easily? Seeing Zuemo's unbelievable look, the Ancient One coughed lightly. But it will take a few years. As compensation, you can enter and exit Kamatage at will and browse all the magic books in the library. Hearing this, Zuemo stared at the Ancient One opposite thoughtfully. The other party didn't want to run away and then take the blame. You know, in the original plot, she died carelessly and then passed the position of the Supreme Sorcerer to Doctor Strange. The Supreme Sorcerer was thrown to death. No one would believe it if he told it to others. Now he wouldn't plan to use this trick on himself. After all, even the core of the artifact, the time gem, was given away casually, which made Zuemo doubt the other party's purpose. It should be unlikely he practices black magic. If it is announced, at least half of the mages in Kamatage will oppose it. Ancient One should have considered this. However, after a little thought, Zuemo was relieved. No matter what her purpose is, as long as the time stone falls into his hands in the end, it will be fine. Even if the other party really has such a plan, at worst, he can just pass on the position again. If it doesn't work, he can learn from the other party to fake his death and get away. Thinking of this, Zuemo nodded and agreed without hesitation. Anyway, it is impossible to comprehend the law now. Except for those monsters, if you want to comprehend the law initially, you must at least reach the universe level. not to mention the 2 higher laws of time and space. Seeing Zuemo agreed, Master Ancient One seemed to show a look of relief on his face. She stood up from her seat. Come on, I'll take you to the library. Soon, under the leadership of Master Ancient One, the two came to a building at the back of Kamataj. This is the library of Kamataj, where all the books of Kamataj are stored. Master Guyi explained as he walked into the room. The room looked a little dim. There were rows of bookshelves on both sides, and each book on the bookshelf was locked and wrapped around it. In the middle was a wooden table. At this time, there was a middle-aged Asian man with a fat figure, sitting behind the desk, holding a book, and reading it seriously. Such obvious features, Zuemo naturally guessed that this person should be the librarian Wang. Hearing the sound at the door, Wang looked up at the door, and saw Master Guyi coming in. He quickly stood up from his seat and saluted. Your Excellency the Supreme Mage. Guyi nodded, pointed to Zuemo behind him and introduced him. This is Zuemo. From now on, he can borrow and read any books in the library at will. After hearing this, Wang looked at Zuemo curiously and nodded. He naturally had no reason to refute the decision of the Supreme Mage. Zuemo came to the bookshelf and casually pulled out a book from it. This is called the Book of Kamustro. Many of the powerful magics recorded on it come from the Book of Vishanti. The Ancient One explained on the side. Zuemo was very familiar with this name. In Doctor Strange, Caecilius communicated with Dormammu in the Dark Dimension through the magic recorded on a page here, which led to Dormammu's invasion. He opened it casually and flipped through it. There is even time magic that relies on the Eye of Agamotto. Seeing the mirror space magic recorded on a certain page, Zuemo became interested. This magic can be said to be the coolest magic among all magics. It can generate a scene space in which the caster of magic can manipulate the terrain and rules inside at will. Of course, it is limited to some simple rules, for example, the direction of gravity, etc. After reading the content on this page, Zuemo closed the book. He waved his right hand gently. The cosmic energy in his body was released as he waved. Then, together with Master Guyi and Wang, they were pulled into a scene space. This space was no different from the library outside, but Zuemo could manipulate the gravity and terrain of this space at will. Master Guyi was already stunned at this time. Whose mage is he a disciple of? Wang also asked Master Guyi next to him with a surprised look. In his opinion, the other party was already able to skillfully release the mirror space, and obviously had reached the level of a great mage, and was considered one of the top people in Kamataj. Half a day later, Master Guyi came back from the shock. This should be the first time he has cast this kind of magic. What? How is it possible? The surprise on Wang's face turned into shock. Even disciples of Guyi like Mordo could only cast this kind of magic after a long period of practice. The man in front of him could cast it successfully at once. No wonder he was brought here by the Supreme Mage Guyi himself. His magic talent is simply outrageous. Guyi shook his head. This is not the most important thing. Didn't you notice that the other party didn't have the hanging ring in his hand? After hearing the suggestion of Master Guyi, Wang finally reacted. How is this possible? As we all know, to cast magic, you need to borrow magic power from Vishanti. And the hanging ring is equivalent to the certificate of borrowing magic power. Only with the hanging ring can you cast magic. Only the Supreme Master Guyi, who is regarded as the spokesperson of Vishanti in this world, and is well known by Vishanti, can cast magic without the help of the hanging ring. But the person in front of him is obviously not the case. Guyi knew that. The other party could borrow magic power from Zising, but the magic power borrowed from it obviously couldn't cast the magic in the Book of Vishanti. How did the other party do it? At this moment, even Master Guyi, who was strong enough in cultivating ki, was shocked by this uncommon thing. Chapter 87 Strengthening Mutant Abilities. Zuemo naturally understood what the two were thinking. After all, it was a consensus among all the mages in this world that casting magic required borrowing mana from the dimensional demon god. However, Zuemo was an exception. The cosmic energy in his body was naturally a kind of energy point, and it was not like the mutually exclusive energy of Vishandi and Zison point that could be used to cast any magic point of course. It also included white magic and black magic point. The reason why Zuemo usually did not use this energy when casting black magic was naturally because he had borrowed infinite mana and did not have to pay any price to use it. He would be stupid to consume the energy in his body point. But when casting white magic, Zuemo obviously did not intend to borrow mana from Vishandi. Anyone who borrowed energy always had to pay a price. How did you do it? The king who reacted asked with a shocked face point, but then he realized that it seemed inappropriate to ask other people's secrets directly, so he said embarrassedly, "Of course, if you don't want to say it, just pretend I didn't ask." At this time, with a creak, the door opened. Two figures walked in from outside the door after entering. The two of them saluted to Guyi first. Teacher. Hearing the two people's address, Zuemo immediately guessed that the two should be the two disciples of Master Guyi, Mordo and Cassilis. The two people's skin, one black and one white, is easy to distinguish. After the salute, the two people looked at Zuemo with hostility at the same time. Is this person the one who practices black magic in Daniel's mouth? How can such a person be allowed to enter Kamatage? Shut up, go. Yi stopped the 2. The last Daniel who spoke like this was almost crippled, and he didn't expect these two people to dare to come up and provoke. Power does not distinguish between good and evil, only people. As long as you can keep your heart, any power is no different. Go. Yi explained to the two. Teacher. Seeing that the two still wanted to argue, Guyi waved his hand to stop them. Okay, you go out. I naturally have my own judgment. She had seen the scene of Zuemo's action just now. Without the help of the Eye of Agamotto, she was not sure she could stop the other party. In order to avoid adding 2 more people to the ward, Guyi drove them away directly. Turning around, Guyi saw Zuemo staring at Cassilis, who walked out of the room with a playful look, and his expression moved. Watching the two people walk out of the room, Zuemo retracted his gaze. Just now he was considering whether to directly abolish the two people. After all, the two people will be troubles in the future. However, considering that the two have not done anything bad, if they are killed, it is likely that there will be no points. In addition, Guyi has been promising himself benefits from beginning to end, and they get along well, so he should give him some face. Slapping the other party's only 2 disciples to death in person is a bit too much. No matter how you look at it. Forget it. Wait until they do evil before getting rid of them. In that way, he can get points. Master Guyi will not complain, but will thank him, and Cassilis and the other 2 can live a few more years. Win-win-win. The two people who walked out of the library were completely that they had just walked through the gates of hell. Zuemo was also a little confused. According to the fact that Guyi could observe the timeline, she should not know that Cassilis was a traitor. Why didn't he get rid of him in advance? Zuemo simply stopped thinking about it. He shook the book in his hand towards Guyi. This book should be borrowed, right? As you like. Go. Yi chuckled. But I hope you can remember your promise. After that, she turned around and walked out. With the other party's consent, Zuemo was not polite and started to choose inside. Although Guyi allowed him to borrow, he did not go too far. He only borrowed a few dozen books and then stopped. After Zuemo left, Juan looked at the bookshelf that was almost 1/3 empty, and an ugly expression appeared on his face. The other party took away some books that recorded advanced magic. Death Island. In the main building of the center, Zuemo walked in from outside. The mutant research laboratory is in this building, so usually the corridors in the building are very busy, but today there is not a single person to be seen. A look of doubt flashed across his face. Then his mental power spread to the surroundings like a tide. His expression moved. He flashed to the large experimental site on the first underground floor. All the researchers in the building, as well as the mutants, gathered here. Seeing the White Queen and Apocalypse standing in the center of the crowd. Zuemo understood instantly. After bringing Apocalypse back, Zuemo handed him over to the White Queen and the others after a few days of recovery. It is clear that Apocalypse has recovered from the near-death state of being about to be broken. into two sections at this time. The normal apocalypse is helping the fireman strengthen his superpowers. The researchers around are standing in front of the instruments, observing the data on the screen. The White Queen noticed Zuemo appearing in the corner and hurried up. "Wait, why do you look younger, Zu?" Emo looked at the White Queen in front of him and asked with a puzzled look. Although her appearance has not changed much over the years due to her mutant abilities, she looks like a young woman in her 20s, but now, her face is full of collagen. She is almost back to the state of 18 or 19 years old. Hearing this, Emma's face showed excitement. This black bald man's ability is simply born for mutants. In just half an hour, my ability has increased by more than 1/3, because of the enhancement of my ability, I have become what I'm now. All mutants with enhanced bodies do age much slower than ordinary people. Just like the White Queen, Emma, Misty, Craven and Siloge. They all look like they are less than 30 years old. Now that their bodies have been strengthened again, they naturally become younger. No woman would desire to stay young forever. Even people like the White Queen are no exception. Judging from her tone, restoring her youth makes her more excited than greatly improving her abilities after strengthening the last mutant. Apocalypse also came to Zuemo and spoke respectfully. "Master." After the White Queen learned about the slave chip, she was no longer surprised by this situation. Well done, Zu." Emo nodded. Then he turned to ask Emma, "Why didn't I see Annie and Eric?" "Oh, Annie went back to New York to visit her family after you left, and Eric said that he had a daughter with the same ability as him, so I asked him to bring her here." Hearing this, Zuemo's eyes moved. This Emma is really dark enough. Not only does she control Layer 1, but she also wants to bring the other party's daughter to work as a cow and a horse. But it seems that he is the one who benefits from all this. If he thinks about it this way, he can only praise him. Well done. After sending the rest away, Emma pulled Zuemo upstairs. "Where are you taking me?" Looking at the look on the other person's face, Zuemo asked knowingly. Emma glanced at him charmingly. "Shouldn't you applaud me for returning to youth at this time?" Chapter 88, The Second Crossing. A few days later in the Star Tower, Zuemo closed the book in his hand. As time accelerated, he had read all the books he had borrowed. Of course, it will take some time to fully master these magics. These magics were indeed as he imagined, and they did not improve his strength too much. In the past few days, he had to check on the clone's pregnancy every day. Judging from these observations, the giant cocoon has not changed much. Thinking about it, how could an incarnation of innate laws like the beast god be born so easily? The clone cannot be conceived for the time being, and the strength cannot be raised to star level for the time being. Then you can only rely on external forces to improve your overall strength. It's like exchanging various technological weapons, such as laser cannons and spaceships. A C9 level laser cannon can completely destroy a city with one strike. Of course, Zuemo could also do it through some tricks, but this laser cannon is not used to hit fixed targets, but moving targets. After locking on the target, the energy it shoots is at the speed of light. There is basically no possibility of dodge. The most appropriate way is to cultivate a plant life. In terms of combat effectiveness, plant life almost crushes ordinary cultivators of the same level. A more powerful plant life can even fight against 100. Moreover, as long as there are sufficient resources, a plant life can be cultivated to the universe level or even the domain lord level in a short period of time. Of course, in this case, the points spent would probably be an astronomical number. Open the properties panel and check it out. The current points are about 870,000. During this period of time, relying on the special operations team, I gained about 300 to 400,000 points. Earning points isn't too slow. But compared to what he wanted to exchange, it was just a drop in the bucket. If nothing else, it is the cheapest laser cannon. A C9 level laser cannon requires more than 3 million points to redeem. If you just rely on the members of the special team to earn points, it will probably take 2 to 3 months. Therefore, he decided to start his second dream walk. Sitting in the practice room, as his figure slowly floated up, almost instantly, the soul came to the spectacular tree of time again. From the outside, one cannot know what kind of world is inside. Zuemo simply looked for a branch that was thicker than the previous world and plunged in. According to the degree of stoutness, this kind of world should have supernatural power. After a daze, Zuemo slowly opened his eyes. When he came back to his senses, he found himself in a cramped and dark space. Looking at the clothes hanging next to him, Zuemo looked stunned. Wardrobe? Before he could react, he heard a woman's voice coming from outside. "Dear, why are you back?" Hearing the conversation, Zuemo reacted instantly. A scene about being caught having an affair. The most important thing is, am I the adulterer? Damn it. Zuemo's face was covered with black lines. What's wrong with the selves in these parallel universes? The one last time had sex with someone else's girlfriend, but this time the one went even further and hooked up with someone else's wife. What the hell? They are not serious people, not like me. After recalling his actions over the past 20 years, Zuemo had to accept the fact. Well, I don't seem to be a good person either. After understanding his current situation, Zuemo immediately decided to leave first. For now, it is better to understand your identity and basic situation first. The woman in the room should know some information about herself in this world. But it would obviously be inappropriate for him to go out and ask like this. It would be better to avoid the limelight first and come back later to ask after her husband leaves. After making this decision, Zuemo immediately opened the space door and left. It was only then that he thought of a question. This closet is full of clothes and there is simply not enough space to open the portal. If you want to open it, you must at least move the clothes out of the way. Thinking of this, Zuemo moved the hanging clothes away and used his mental power to explore outside. After this inspection, his face instantly became a little ugly. At this time, a man was standing in front of the closet with his hands on the handle of the closet. Obviously the other party will open the cabinet door in the next moment. A blonde woman wearing only purple pajamas, holding a baseball bat in her hand, stood behind the man. The next moment, the woman swung the baseball bat in her hand and hit the man on the neck. The man who was about to open the cabinet door stopped and fainted. Holy shit. Seeing the woman's movements, Zuemo's eyelids twitched. This guy doesn't look like a good person. Not only was she having an affair, but she was also thinking about murdering her husband. After the woman knocked the man unconscious, she quickly opened the cabinet door. He shouted towards Zuemo, who was stunned inside. "Come out quickly." Only then did Zuemo come back to his senses and walked out of the cabinet. He looked the woman's appearance up and down. I have to say that, although my peers in these worlds are not good people, their vision is first rate. This young woman is the same as Alyssa in the last world. Both of them are rated above 90 points in terms of appearance. She has long golden hair. She has big eyes, a high nose bridge, fair skin, and a height of nearly 1.7 meters. With a slightly plump figure, she is indeed very charming. After coming out, the woman didn't say anything nonsense. She took his clothes out of the closet and handed them to him. "Okay, leave quickly, otherwise it will be bad if he wakes up and sees it." Hearing the other party urging him to leave, Zuemo sighed. A purple light flashed in his eyes, and at the same time, a black hair shot out of his hand and sank into the mind of the man on the ground. Before leaving, you always have to ask for your address. America is not like China, where there is such a thing as an ID card. If he doesn't ask someone clearly, he can't even be sure if his name is Zuemo. The moment the woman's eyes met Zuemo's, her face became dull. "What's my name? Zuemo, half." An hour later, Zuemo walked out of the house. From the woman's mouth, he also learned about his basic situation. Unexpectedly, he lived opposite this house. When he got this news, Zuemo was also surprised. The rabbit does not eat the grass near the nest, but this guy is so bold as to seduce the neighbor's young woman. If he is found by the man, the other party may empty the magazine towards him one day. And he also learned the identity of this body. An orphan college student who just graduated last week. The school he graduated from is Pennsylvania State University, not far from here. Yes, it is the university where Wanda studied. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89, A Strange World. After confirming his identity, Zuemo returned to his home point. He was not in a hurry. To understand the situation in this world point, he first returned to his own world and checked a watch next to him point. With the experience of the last time, he had to first determine the time difference between the two worlds in case the time in this world is much slower than that in his original world. He can only give up this world point otherwise. Before he collects enough points in this world, Thanos' snap in his original world will be played, which will be a bit of a loss. Fortunately point after comparison, the time flow rate of the two worlds is 1 to 1 point only. Then did Zuemo breathe a sigh of relief point at the moment. He immediately searched on the internet point. He hoped to find information about this world on the internet, but the result obviously disappointed him. Like the previous world, there was no special information on the internet. It seemed that this was just an ordinary world like his previous life. Just as he was thinking, the phone in his pocket rang point. He took out his phone point. The name displayed on it was Jason. After the call was connected, a young man's voice came from the other end. Carl said he found an abandoned town on the internet. It is said that various strange events have happened in the town. Everyone unanimously decided to go to this town for an adventure during the graduation trip. Do you want to join us? Strange town. Emo's eyes moved. Yes, I heard that the name of the town is something Ridge. At this point, Jason's voice on the other side became vague, and it sounded like he was asking others the name of the town. After a while, his voice returned to normal. Yes, that place is called Silent Hill. How about it? Doesn't it sound cool? Silent Hill. Emo instantly grasped the keywords in this sentence. Hearing this familiar name, he also understood the nature of this world. Hey, are you listening? Are you going or not? Jason's shouting on the other side woke him up. Go, of course. Okay, meet at the school gates tomorrow. That's it. After that, the other party hung up the phone. Is there a world of strange evil spirits? Emo showed an interested look on his face point. This is the right thing for my profession as a mage. That night, Zuemo ordered a takeaway, and after having dinner, he planned to rest directly. This body is just an ordinary person after all. During the day, he consumed a lot of physical energy at his neighbor's house, and his body was already a little bit exhausted at this time point. Just when he was drowsy, a scream from outside woke him up point. Before he went out to check point, a crying voice came from outside the door. Open the door quickly. From the sound, it was the young woman who lived opposite. When he opened the door, the other party was also wearing only pajamas at this time. It seemed that she was panting violently after running violently. After seeing Zuemo, she suddenly threw herself into his arms. The tears on her face flowed out like a dam breaking point. Seeing this scene, Zuemo had a headache point. Could it be that the couple had a conflict because of what happened during the day? If this is the case, he really doesn't know how to deal with it. It's all the mess left by the original owner. However, things have to be solved, and we can't just keep wasting time like this. What happened? He asked the woman. At this time, he remembered that he was busy asking about his own news during the day, and he didn't know the woman's name at this time. Under his questioning, the woman gradually calmed down, but the woman's next words made his brain crash. Paul is dead. What? Hearing this, Zuemo was stunned. You killed him? This was the first thought that came to Zuemo's mind. Of course not. The woman quickly denied point. Then a trace of horror appeared on her face. Half an hour later, outside the villa opposite, several police cars were parked point. A group of neighbors who were awakened surrounded the cordon. After a while, several police officers came out of the house carrying a bulging body bag point. Zuemo and the blonde were sitting in a police car nearby, and a police officer was taking statements from them. Finally, the woman was taken back by the police to assist in the investigation. After all, the man died in a home with only the two of them, and the woman was a major suspect. Zuemo had also gotten the woman's name through chatting before. Bellica. Looking at the police car that gradually disappeared from sight, Zuemo fell into deep thought. Before the police arrived, Zuemo had already checked outside the villa. Combined with Bellica's description, Zuemo also figured out the ins and outs of the matter. The man died of excessive blood loss caused by 3 huge scratches on his chest. According to Bellica, she was awakened by a sound at night, and when she went out, she saw the other person lying on the floor of the living room, and his clothes on his chest were soaked with blood. She suspected that the murderer was still hiding in the room, so she ran away from the house directly. Strangely, she was not stopped in her escape from the room. However, Zuemo had some guesses outside the house. When he used his mental power to investigate, Zuemo found a trace of grey energy on the man. It looked like the legendary resentment. Combined with the existence of Silent Hill, he easily deduced that the man was likely to have died in a supernatural event. Greedy spirit? Zuemo's mouth curled up slightly. After learning that there was a place called Silent Hill in this world, Zuemo searched for relevant information on the internet. Although he did not find any news about supernatural events, but he had seen a piece of data. In the whole of America, the number of people who died due to accidents throughout the year was as high as 3 million. This was obviously a bit abnormal. Even in the Marvel world where he was, there were all kinds of powerful villains, and the number of people who died due to accidents each year was only more than 500,000. The number of deaths in this world was 6 times that number. Add the number of people who died due to illness and normal conditions. The total number of deaths each year exceeded 5 million. Judging from the data of the continuous increase in the number of deaths year by year, the number of these strange evil spirits is also growing explosively. Now the number of deaths in the United States has exceeded the number of births each year. If this continues, I'm afraid that in about a year's 100, this country will become a world of evil spirits. However, in Zuemo's opinion, the more evil spirits there are in this world, the better. The more evil spirits there are, the more points he can get. Of course, it is best to keep the number of evil spirits and humans in a balanced state. In this way, there will be a steady stream of points. After thinking everything through, Zuemo went straight back home and fell asleep peacefully. Judging from the fact that Bellica was able to escape the room safely, and the resentment that had disappeared in the house, this resentful spirit should have a purpose for revenge. It will not affect others, of course, even if the other party is an evil spirit that kills randomly without distinction. Zuemo will not worry at all. You know, ZSUON is in charge of the underworld. Although there is naturally a huge gap between him and ZSUON. But with the dark book in hand, if he can still be hurt by these evil spirits, he might as well just hit his head and die. Chapter 90. Let's go to Silent Hill. Early the next morning, Zuemo got into his second-hand Ford pickup truck and drove towards the school gate. 5 minutes later, his car arrived at its destination. At this time, there were already 2 cars waiting here. A Lexus, and the last one is a Ferrari supercar. I saw his car stopped. A man with glasses, less than 1.8 meters tall, got out of the Lexus. He walked up with a smile on his face. Hey, Zoo, you finally figured it out. You don't have to worry about finding a job, Zoo. Emo chuckled when he heard this. It can be seen from the decoration and supplies in the room yesterday, and the second-hand Ford I drove. In this world, my economic situation is not very good. Apparently, according to the original plan of the original owner, he did not choose to go on a graduation trip with them, but found a job. However, as the other party approached, the look on his face changed. He actually felt a sense of resentment from the other party. This is a sign of being targeted by evil spirits at that moment. Zuemo's thoughts spread out around him. As expected, the 2 people in the Lexus and the 2 people in the Ferrari had this aura about them. Have evil spirits spread to this extent in this world? From yesterday to now, fully 6 of the people I met have been targeted by evil spirits. This probability is too high. You can tell the person in front of you from his voice. It was Jason who talked to him on the phone last night. After waiting for a few more minutes, the last car arrived, a red Subaru. After everyone arrived, the motorcade officially set off. Jason chose to sit in Zuemo's car. Along the way, the 2 of them chatted. It was obvious that Jason was very excited and had no idea what kind of world he would face next. Zuemo also indirectly learned all the information about their team from his mouth. There are 7 people in the team in total. Except for Zuemo himself, Jason, and Carl, who was driving a Lexus. The other person in Carol's car was his sister Lina. On top of the Ferrari supercar is their classmate Dina and her wealthy boyfriend Blake. There was a girl in the last car. Julie is also their classmate. A few hours later, the death squad stopped at a lone gas station on the highway. While refueling, they also need to go to the supermarket to purchase some supplies. After all, the Silent Hill they were going to was a remote, abandoned town. And according to the plan, we will stay in the town for a few days, so we still need to prepare some necessary food and water. Park your car in front of the supermarket. Several people got out of the car one after another. Carol is nearly 1.9 meters tall. Looking at the strong muscles on his body, you can tell that he is usually a fitness enthusiast. Contrary to him, his sister Lina looked to be 18 or 19 years old, only about 1 meter 6 tall, and her figure was also thin. The two stood together, unable to believe that they, the Beauty and the Beast, could be brothers and sisters. Dina is a girl with fair skin and a height of nearly 1.8 meters. Her black boyfriend Blake has dreadlocks. Both of them looked angry. It is estimated that there was a conflict over something before, but Zuemo quickly noticed that Blake had dreadlocks. There seemed to be a trace of anger in the eyes looking at him. Did the two of them have a holiday? Zuemo muttered secretly, planning to ask Jason sideways. After getting in the car, the last Julie has long black hair and 3-dimensional facial features, especially the full and slightly curled lips, which adds a unique beauty to her. Jason learned that Julie was not only the most attractive woman in their class, still a top student. Throughout college, there were numerous suitors. However, there are no rumors about having a boyfriend. Judging from Jason's praise of her between the lines, it is obvious that he is also one of her many admirers. However, his taciturn character meant that he could only fantasize about it in private. Zuemo summed it up. The Beauty and the Beast brother and sister, the black couple, the school beauty, plus him and Jason, are all the members of this death-seeking team. After Lina got off the car, she ran to Zuemo and the others. Zu, why didn't you answer my phone call yesterday? I might have been in the shower and didn't hear it. Zuemo casually found an excuse to excuse himself. When he returned home and checked his cell phone, he naturally saw a missed call named Lina. However, judging by the time, the original owner should have been hiding in the neighbor's closet at that time, so there was no time to talk to her. Afterwards, he traveled back in time, and without knowing his identity, it was naturally impossible for him to call her back. I heard the reason Zuemo made up. Lina naturally didn't believe it. When she was about to say something more, her brother Carol came over. Okay, Lina, stop making trouble and go buy some necessities. We have to set off quickly. We must reach the last town leading to Silent Hill before night. After speaking, he nodded towards Zuemo, mentioned Lina and walked towards the supermarket. Zuemo and Jason saw this and walked into the supermarket like them. However, Zuemo discovered something. That school beauty Julie had hardly communicated with others from beginning to end. Even when they gathered in the morning, she just greeted Carl. Thinking of this, Zuemo turned to Jason beside him and asked, did this Julie take the initiative to join the team? Of course. The other party has always been very interested in this kind of supernatural adventure. As Jason described, Zuemo also understood. Cole was also one of Julie's suitors, and the reason why he proposed this adventure to Silent Hill was to attract Julie's attention and attract her, so as to create an opportunity to contact her. Speaking of this, Jason's words were still sour good guy. It's really a classic. In order to get closer to a woman who likes supernatural adventures, he took a few good friends and his sister to die. Zuemo could imagine at point if he hadn't traveled through time. If this team enters Silent Hill, I'm afraid no one will survive. But what's the matter with the resentment in everyone? Among the current few people, only Julie does not have this kind of resentment. On the way here just now, he also asked indirectly, have the few people ever done such a suicidal action before? Going to an ancient house or a haunted house? Jason said there was no such activity. Zuemo, who couldn't figure it out, Didn't think about it anymore. A strange light flashed in his eyes, and the light lasted for less than 2 seconds. When the light disappeared, the resentment of Jason and Carl had been transferred to himself. In this way, he, who had the deepest resentment, would obviously become the first target of the evil spirit. He just needed the other party to deliver himself to the door. Chapter 91, The Importance of Personality. After entering the supermarket, several people quickly picked a large bag of food each. Zuemo was no exception. However, when swiping the card, Zuemo found that all the cards showed insufficient balance. Although I know that the original owner's financial situation is not very good, I didn't expect it to be so. Seeing the balance in the card, Zuemo was also a little speechless. This money is probably only enough for lunch at most. No wonder the original owner didn't plan to go on an adventure with them. I'm afraid that this amount of money would really starve to death in the town. But I have to admire the original owner. It's already in this situation, not to mention getting some money quickly, but there is still time to seduce the neighbor's young woman. The key is that he also seduced the neighbor's young woman. Still has some means. Looking at the cashier girl who was looking at him innocently with a credit card, Zuemo's face was also a little embarrassed. Years of affluent life have gradually made him ignore the matter of money. After all, with his wealth and status in the Marvel world, he hasn't felt the feeling of spending money for a long time. In desperation, he could only reach into his backpack. Outsiders watched him reach into his backpack, but in fact, his hand had passed through the space gate and appeared in the secret compartment behind the bookcase in the home of an American congressman. When he took it back, there was already a stack of more than $100,000 in his hand. Reason why he knew where the congressman hid his money was because he also existed in the Marvel world. And because of the film and television company, Zuemo had dealt with the other party before. He also learned about the location of the vault from the other party's wife. As for why the other party's wife told him, it is not convenient to elaborate. When he was searching for information on the internet last night, he accidentally saw the information of this congressman. He also tried it with the intention of trying. Unexpectedly, the isotope in this world has the same habit. I wonder if his wife in this world also has a mole at the root of her thigh. Zuemo thought randomly out of boredom. Put the bills into the backpack and pull out a few from it. Handed it to the cashier in front of him. Because the checkout took a while, when Zuemo came out, the others were already waiting outside. Seeing that everyone was already there, Carl, the captain, spoke directly. Let's go. Then everyone went to their own cars. However, when Zuemo walked to the front of the car, he found that the seductively dressed girl Dinah sitting in the Ferrari was following him. Seeing Zuemo's gaze, Dinah spoke. I want to sit in your car. The others who were about to return to the car also noticed the situation here. Her boyfriend Blake's face became even more ugly. He walked up and looked at Zuemo with a gloomy face. Are you Zu? In fact, no one in their team was familiar with Blake. It was only because the other party was Dinah's boyfriend, and because Dinah was going to participate in this expedition, that he came along. He didn't believe in those supernatural things at all. When Zuemo saw the other party's face, it seemed as if he had cheated on him. Wait. Thinking of this, Zuemo's heart suddenly jumped. Could it be true? To be honest, according to what he did to the two world isotopes, this is indeed possible. At this time, Dinah, who was standing behind him, came forward directly, blocked in front of Zuemo. What do you want to do, Zuemo sighed secretly when he saw Dinah's action. At present, there is at least a 60% chance that it is really what he thought. Blake saw this. The anger on his face surged to his face with the naked eye. It seems that I did not wrong you. You really have a relationship with the other party. What nonsense are you talking about? Dinah retorted angrily. I'm talking nonsense. Then why did you call his name after you fell asleep in the car just now? In a hurry, Blake shouted directly. Hearing this, everyone, including Zuemo, was stunned. Dinah's face changed after hearing this, as if she was angry out of shame. Yes, we are related. We not only slept together, but also slept together more than once. In my heart, you are not even as good as one finger of his. How about that? Also, we break up from now on, and there will be no relationship between us in the future. After Saying that, she stopped talking nonsense and sat directly in the backseat of Zuemo's car. After hearing this, Blake couldn't accept it for a while. After dating for more than a month, you didn't even let me touch your hand, and you actually slept with him. After hearing this, Carl hurried up. Blake, you may have some misunderstandings. Dinah said, all angry words. She was Zoo's girlfriend before. Maybe it's just that the other party left her with too deep a memory. Hearing this, Zuemo looked at Carl in shock. Brother, if you can't persuade people, don't force it. He also understood that the original owner didn't join this team, not just because of money. Looking at the ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend showing affection in front of him, any man would not accept it. Sure enough, after hearing this, Blake's face became even more angry. In a rage, he rushed towards Zuemo with his fists clenched. Zuemo is not used to standing and getting beaten. Although he doesn't know the truth, he is really just being shot. He kicked the other person to the ground. Zuemo didn't go up to add a few more hits after all. Before the matter was clear, he didn't dare to be sure whether he was wrong. Under the persuasion of everyone, Blake returned to the car angrily. After this happened, he didn't plan to stay, but drove away directly. Watching the other party's car disappear from sight. Zuemo knew that the other party should have a grudge against him, and from the car he drove, his family should have some power. But Zuemo was not worried at all. Instead, he hid his resentment. Judging from the concentration of the other party's resentment, if nothing unexpected happens, he will not see the sun tomorrow. Seeing this, no one said much. Only Julie looked at Dinah and then returned to the car, and Jason, who was sitting in the co-pilot, returned to Carl's car tactfully. The space in the car was left to Zuemo and Dinah. After the car started again, Zuemo glanced at Dinah in the passenger seat. Strangely, Dinah now looked calm. Not only was there no anger in her eyes, Zuemo even saw a hint of joy in them. Seeing this, he was stunned. For a moment, his brain was a little bit unable to react. Dinah noticed Zuemo's expression and showed a sick smile on her face. She said something inexplicably. Do you know who Blake's father is? Without waiting for Zuemo to answer, she continued to speak on her own. His father is a member of the #1 gang in the United States, and his status is not low. Hearing this, Zuemo suddenly reacted. Everything you did before was just acting? Chapter 92. I was so scared. Dinah heard what Zuemo said. A bright smile appeared on her face. You are still as smart as before, but I can't figure out why you don't deny it, but cooperate with my performance so much. At this point, Dinah's puzzled eyes fell on Zuemo's face. Zuemo sighed. At this point, he finally understood. There was no cheating. Everything was just this woman's plan. The fact is that after the two broke up, Dinah hated him for something. She specifically found a boyfriend like Blake, the son of a gangster. After that, things were simple. She pretended to reveal all kinds of flaws so that Blake suspected that Zuemo had put a hat on him. In this situation, I'm afraid no man can stand it. Not to mention Blake, who grew up in a gangster family. Blake would naturally use all kinds of ways to retaliate against Zuemo. I have to say, this woman is cruel enough. And if the other party hadn't confessed, he, who had no memory of his original body, might have been deceived by the other party. Zuemo smiled and shook his head. Why do you do this? Hearing this, Dinah showed a crazy smile on her face. Of course I want you to die. I am the only one who can get rid of others. Why do you get rid of me first? Zuemo was surprised when he heard this. Just because of this woman is a psychopath. Thinking of this, Zuemo looked at the other person with a look of caring for the mentally retarded. Dinah, who had expected to see Zuemo's anger and fear, saw Zuemo's calm face, and a surge of anger came up. She was willing to spend a lot of time to pretend to be with the black guy, just to take revenge on him, and see his regretful and remorseful look. Every time this happened, she would get an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. Zuemo's indifference on the opposite side in the look, as if he was looking at a mentally retarded person, successfully angered her. Dinah looked at Zuemo fiercely. Oh, there's one more thing I forgot to tell you. The reason why your parents didn't get any pension, and your house was taken back, and all the part-time jobs you had before were fired. I asked someone to do all these. How is it? Are you very angry? Are you very angry? After saying that, Dina looked at Zuemo triumphantly, expecting to see an angry look on his face. Zuemo still calmly controlled the car, glimpsed at him from the corner of his eye. So, it seems that you are really free, Zu. Imo seemed to have heard Jason say that Dina's father seemed to be a state legislator with the power of the other party. It is not difficult to do what she said. Impossible. Shouldn't you be very angry? I made you poor and even messed with the son of the top leader of the biggest gang, Zu. Emo didn't answer, but turned his head and looked at her. You said that. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you now? You know, if I get involved with the gangs, I may not be able to survive, so it's just right to drag you down with me. Do you dare? Dina looked at Zuemo with a smug look on her face. Now that you know this, you just need to be careful and hide, and you can survive. Those gangs won't find you so easily, and if you kill me, you will be wanted by the government. No matter where you hide, you will die. Hearing the other party's answer, Zuemo suddenly understood. The other party's purpose is not to kill him, but to make him live in a life of fear and escape in the future. I have to say that this woman is not only idle, but also vicious enough. Thinking of this, Zuemo's mouth corners rose slightly. Good analysis, but you still don't seem to know me well enough. Speaking of this, Zuemo paused, looking out of the car. At this time, the car was passing a cliffside path with a height of dozens of meters. There is a turbulent river under the cliff. Tell me, if we fall from here, can we still survive? Hearing this, Dina's face changed. What are you going to do? She is a little crazy and a little paranoid, but it doesn't mean she is not afraid of death. Zuemo's words, coupled with the crazy smile on his face, made her a little creepy. Of course, take you to see the little goldfish. After saying that, Zuemo hit the steering wheel in his hand. The car turned and sped towards the cliff at an angle. Seeing this scene, Dina was stunned, and her expression became completely panicked. No, I can let you go. Don't do this. Zuemo didn't pay attention to the other party's plan. Seeing that the right front wheel of the car had left the ground, Dina's pupils shrank, and then she let out a shrill scream. Holding the handle above the window tightly with both hands, the car swung. The entire right side of the car turned around on the cliff on the side of the road and returned to the ground. Of course, Zuemo did this with the help of his mental power. This is why he dared to play like this. After all, even with the mental power he could exert, it was not a problem to lift the car. Sizzle after a sharp brakes sound, the car stopped on the road. Turning his head to look at Dina on the side. At this time, her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were dull. It seems that she has not recovered from the exciting project just now. There was a dripping sound from under the passenger seat. Zuemo looked in the direction of the sound, and found that there was a large water stain on Dina's jeans. At this time, water drops kept dripping from the water stain. And there was already a small pool of liquid under the seat. It's so unlucky. I have to wash the car later. Wow. It was not until this time that Dina came back to her senses, and tears flowed from her eyes like a dam bursting. Shut up, Zu. Emo shouted. Dina was so scared that she trembled all over, and the sound in her mouth stopped abruptly. Get out of the car and take off your pants. Hearing this, Dina hurriedly got out of the car and then took off her pants. Obviously, Zuemo's action just now completely frightened her. As a daughter of a city council member, she has been spoiled since she was a child and is used to being bossy. No one has ever dared to scold her loudly, which led to her blindly confident personality. Otherwise, anyone with a little bit of brains would not tell the previous things in a car with only two people. Now that she has seen Zuemo's ferocity, she is as obedient as a chicken. She glanced at the pants in her hand. Dina asked in a low voice, I only have this one piece of clothing now. Can I take a bag to pack it up? The clothes she had brought before were all placed on the ferry. Her original intention was to buy them after reaching the last town leading to Silent Hill, but it was obviously too late now. She couldn't go out like this. After all, her last piece of clothing was transparent. A few minutes later, the car was back on the road. However, the moment that the car started, Zuemo transferred the resentment in his body to Dina's body and temporarily helped her cover it with dark energy. Because Zuemo deliberately left the car behind, the two cars in front did not discover the situation here. Chapter 93 The Evil Spirit is Coming. When it was almost dark, the group finally reached the last town leading to Silent Hill. Silent Hill is very remote. Even the nearest town is still more than 2 hours away by car. The group's plan was to rest in the hotel in this town for one night and then go to Silent Hill early tomorrow morning. The car stopped in front of the only hotel in the town. Desperately, Dinah put on her jeans again. After several people checked in, Dinah endured the strange looks of everyone and got up and ran to the supermarket not far away. Because the town is a bit remote, the empty rooms in the hotel are enough for one person. After checking in, the team leader Carl also walked out of the hotel, and before leaving, he also took Lina, who was pestering Zuemo, away. Julie looked at the map on the wall and studied it. Only Zuemo and Jason took the keys of their respective rooms and walked upstairs. There are only 3 floors in the hotel. Their rooms are on the 2nd and 3rd floors respectively. After going up to the 2nd floor, Jason patted Zuemo. Zoo, do you want to go out for a walk later? I just applied for a gun license. I just saw a gun store not far away. I plan to buy a weapon for self-defense. There was a glimmer of excitement in his eyes behind his glasses. After all, no man doesn't like this kind of thing. I won't go, but remember to buy more bullets. Maybe you will need them tomorrow. After entrusting the other party, Zuemo went back to the room directly. However, the other party reminded him that he should also prepare some weapons. It's hard to say about the inner world, but it seems that the monsters in the outer world can be solved with guns. His mental power is now limited by his body and cannot last long. It's better to prepare some weapons. At dinner, everyone gathered together again. Carl explained the information about Silent Hill that he had collected in the town today. I asked many residents in the town today, and they all kept silent about Silent Hill, but I still got some useful information. What information? Jason asked. Carl glanced at Julie with a subtle look in his eyes and noticed that she was also staring at him seriously. A hint of excitement flashed in his eyes. After clearing his throat, he spoke. There was a big fire in the town decades ago. Within a month after the fire, dozens have disappeared in succession. Disappeared. Julie. Residents heard this, and a thoughtful look appeared in her eyes. That's right. Carl nodded. It's the kind of disappearance where even the body can't be found. Emo's heart moved. He knew this. It seemed that these people had participated in burning the little girl to death, and then all of them were pulled into the surface world by the little girl who gained power. He watched this movie earlier, and he almost forgot the plot in it. I only remember that it seemed to be divided into the surface world and the inner world. It seems to be somewhat similar to the mirror space in White Magic. Dinah had changed her clothes at this time point. After arriving in the town, she had been in a trance, but her eyes looked at Zuemo from time to time. After dinner, everyone returned to their rooms. After running around for a day, everyone was a little tired. Zuemo had just finished taking a shower when he heard a knock on the door. After opening the door, Dinah was standing outside in a windbreaker at this time. The heavy makeup on his face had been washed off and light makeup was put on his face. In this way, the other party was not much inferior to Julie. No wonder she was targeted by her own body. Can I come in? Dinah's attitude was unusually docile. Seeing the other party's expression, Zuemo was a little surprised, but still nodded. After getting Zuemo's permission, she stepped in. Just after closing the door, Zuemo turned around and saw that Dinah had taken off the windbreaker she was wearing. She was wearing a very seductive black silk maid outfit. Seeing the other person dressed like this, Zuemo was stunned. What is this woman trying to do? Before he could react, Dinah had already thrown herself into his arms. What are you doing, Zuemo pushed the other person away with a hint of disgust on his face. Seeing this, Dinah hurriedly explained. Don't worry, I didn't even let Blake touch my hand. So what? Didn't you want me to die during the day? Zuemo was not moved at all. Hearing this, Dinah's face showed a hint of aftertaste. But I think you look so handsome during the day. Let's make up again. I can promise you anything. Looking At the expression on the other person's face, Zuemo was stunned. Did this woman awaken some special attribute? Seeing Zuemo's stunned look, Dina secretly stuffed something into Zuemo's hand and then looked at him expectantly. Zuemo lowered his head and glanced at the necessary items for hiding in his hand. A face full of astonishment. You are really perverted. 2 hours later, Zuemo sat on the sofa in front of the window. Dina was cleaning up the battlefield obediently. Zuemo had to admit that this woman was indeed interesting. Why not stay and raise her for a while? Thinking of this, Zuemo waved at the other party and Dina hurriedly walked up. A black energy shot out from Zuemo's brow and gradually formed a demon contract in midair. Sign it. After explaining the signing method, Zuemo said to Dina lightly. Dina had been stunned by the scene in front of her. What is this? After signing it, you will be my servant in the future, and everything about you, including your life, will be under my control, Zuemo explained. Then he stared straight at the other party. If she refused to sign this contract, Zuemo could only let her fend for herself. However, according to the resentment in her body, she should leave very uneasy. Unexpectedly, Dina's eyes lit up after hearing it. I sign it. After saying that, Dina couldn't wait to reach out and touch the contract. Seeing the other party's fear that he would regret it if he was one step late. Zuemo was a little doubtful whether he had not explained it clearly just now. In this way, I will be yours from now on. Dina showed an excited look on her face. Seeing the other party's performance, Zuemo gently stroked her forehead. Sure enough, the other party's perversion began to develop in a strange direction. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, the whole town fell into silence. In such a remote town, there is a lack of entertainment at night, and the people here are more or less affected by Silent Hill. This caused the residents of the town to go to bed early at night. On the second floor of the hotel, in Zuemo's room, Zuemo slowly took back the dark energy that wrapped in us. Resentment. When absorbing the resentment from several people, he found that the concentration of resentment in their bodies was not the same. He guessed that this concentration should determine the order in which the resentful spirits attacked them. Among all people, Blake had the highest concentration. In addition, Zuemo hid the resentment in the bodies of other people. Tonight, the resentful spirit will 99% find Blake. Maybe the other party is dead now. As Zuemo collected the energy to cover the resentment, after a while, the lights in the whole room began to flicker. The sound of sizzling also began to echo in the room. Zuemo's eyes condensed. The resentful spirit is coming. Chapter 94. The Ring. Sadako. Look at the abnormality in the room. Exhausted, Dina sat up from the bed with difficulty. There was a trace of fear on his face. What's going on? Zuemo pushed her back into bed again and looked at the TV opposite the bed with a hint of purple light in his eyes. Lie there and don't move. Upon hearing Zuemo's order, excitement flashed across Dina's eyes. Even the fear in her heart was temporarily suppressed, and she nodded hurriedly. After saying that, he shrank back into the quilt and stared at Zuemo with burning eyes. Zuemo turned around and glanced at him. Damn, what a pervert. Then Zuemo's eyes fell on the TV again. He could see clearly. The room has been gradually invaded by a wave of resentment, and the source of the resentment is the TV opposite the bed. This is an old-fashioned big head TV. Among the hotels in this remote town, it is pretty good to have this kind of hotel. As the resentment gradually gathered in the TV, the screen of the closed TV suddenly lit up, and a snowflake appeared on the screen. No, why does this seem like so familiar? After a while, the snowflakes on the TV disappeared. Zuemo looked at a dry well that appeared on the screen and was stunned. The Midnight Bell, Sadako? This picture is so classic and so memorable. As a result, Zuemo recognized it immediately when he saw it. It wasn't until this moment that Zuemo realized that Silent Hill didn't seem to be the only one he knew well in this world. The pictures on the TV began to change continuously. Zuemo didn't have the slightest fear. He walked directly to the TV and unplugged the plug from the wall. The TV screen was not affected and was still playing those images. Give this to Tony. He will be ecstatic, right? Zuemo secretly thought. The last time the two of them chatted on the yacht, they heard each other say that he was researching renewable energy. He calls it an arc reactor. Sadako's thing can power a TV when there is no power source, and it can obviously also be used as an energy source. With many thoughts in his mind, Zuemo sat sideways on the table next to the TV, waiting for Sadako's arrival with peace of mind. Dina, who was sitting on the bed, saw all this with a look of surprise on her face. The TV, which was out of power, was still playing. This was obviously beyond her knowledge. But seeing Zuemo's calm look, she felt relieved. After the magical contract that the other party made before, she also realized that the other party was not an ordinary person and should be able to cope with this situation. Less than 2 minutes passed. The constantly beating images on the TV stopped and switched to the dry well again. Then, a pair of dirty hands stretched out from the dry well. Dina, who was paying full attention to the TV screen, was startled, but she quickly covered her mouth with her hands to prevent herself from making a sound. After all, the master's orders are absolute. Zuemo naturally noticed the scene in the picture and stood up. In a moment, a dirty figure wearing a white dress with disheveled hair climbed out of the well and crawled towards the screen. As the TV screen gradually faded into blur, Sadako's upper body crawled out of the TV. At this time, Sadako suddenly saw a pair of feet appearing in her sight. Slowly raising her head, Sadako's eyes slowly looked upward along her legs. Finally, I saw Zuemo's handsome face. Zuemo gave her a standard smile, showing 8 neat white teeth. This smile and Sadako's eyes made a chill rise in her heart. Before she could react, Zuemo's right hand with a hint of purple light directly grabbed her long hair and pulled it out from the TV. Sadako's body was instantly restrained by a black energy, making it impossible for her to move at all. The severe pain coming from her head made Sadako let out a pitiful cry. Although Zuemo's body had only been strengthened by his telekinesis for a day, his strength was no less than that of a trained special soldier. He pulled the other person's hair and lifted him up. Zuemo aimed a combination of punches at her face. Sadako, who had almost no feeling of pain, felt the fists emitting purple light hitting her body. Every blow made her want to go crazy. After a full 5 minutes of violent beating, Zuemo stopped panting. He reached out and summoned a purple rope, tied the other party up, and hung him from the ceiling. Dina on the bed watched the whole process in her eyes, the light in her eyes getting brighter and brighter. Fighting evil spirits is as easy as a father beating his son. After hanging Sadako up, Zuemo watched the fierce struggle with his hands around his neck. At this time, he also saw the other party's appearance clearly. First of all, the other party has a European and American face. So obviously, this is the American version of Sadako. Secondly, this Sadako is also pretty. A purple whip gradually formed in Zuemo's hand, and then he looked at Sadako hanging in the air. You going to cooperate proactively or passively? Half. An hour later, looking at Sadako disappearing in front of him, Zuemo waved his hand, and the rope in the air also disappeared. This Sadako can communicate, but it seems that her brain is not working well. In just half an hour, Zuemo also got some information from the other party. First of all, the other party's name is Morgan, not Sadako. And from her words, it can be inferred that if you kill her body, she will not disappear. This is just one of her countless clones. Zuemo had expected this a long time ago. According to the plot, anyone who has watched the videotape will be found by her at 10 o'clock in the evening 7 days later. If enough people watch the videotape, she will be very busy. Therefore, the other party may have the ability to clone. Zuemo guessed that only by destroying her original body can she really disappear, but unfortunately, no matter how Zuemo forced her, the other party refused to explain the location of her original body. She didn't speak until she was beaten to death by Zuemo. But Zuemo was not panicked at all. Since they were targeted by the Sadako, Jason and the others had obviously seen the videotape before. It was not easy to find the other party. But with the videotape in hand, it was too easy to make the other party come to find him. Turned his head and looked at Dina. I don't know whether Sadako herself intentionally cancelled it, or it was due to some rules in Zuemo's perception. The resentment in Dina's body dissipated directly. Dina saw Zuemo's gaze. There was a trace of desire in her eyes. Master, I want that too. Which one do you want? Hearing this, Dina licked her lips and pointed at the purple whip held in Zuemo's hand. Damn. A fire of evil rose from Zuemo's lower abdomen. Chapter 95. Arriving at Silent Hill and entering the surface world. The next morning a group of people gathered at the entrance of the hotel. Carl glanced around. There were only 5 figures. Where's Dana? Why didn't she come down? Zoo. Emo shook his head. She stayed in the hotel waiting for us. Zoo. Emo hadn't planned to let her go with him. In addition, the other party was lying on the bed and couldn't get down at all, so naturally there was no way to go with him. In Zuemo's opinion, the other party was typical of being both inexperienced and playful. After hearing Zuemo's words, Carl didn't say anything more. From the sound that lasted all night, they also understood what was going on. After all, it was a wooden building, and the sound insulation effect was really poor. A few minutes later, 3 cars started and drove towards Silent Hill. Without Dana, Jason sat back in the co-pilot of Zuemo's car. Of course, the car had been sent to the store for washing yesterday. You and Dana, are you reconciled again? Emo shook his head. No. Then, you, Jason, was about to say something, but after thinking about it, he swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. But there was a trace of envy on his face. Others have women all the time, but he hasn't even held a woman's hand until now, which is a bit sad. More than an hour later, the convoy slowly drove into the mountains. After turning into a fork marked with the Silent Hill sign, in less than 10 minutes, the outline of a small town appeared in Zuemo's sight. As the car approached, the appearance of the town also appeared in their eyes. The streets of the town looked very neat, which was different from the abandoned town expected. The sun shone on the mottled walls of the buildings. It made the town look old. These houses seemed to have existed for at least decades. Seeing the quiet and empty streets, Jason showed a trace of excitement on his face. Wow, it looks good. In the next few days, we will be the masters of this town. Hearing his words, Zuemo glanced at him. I hope you can still maintain this happy mood later. Soon, 3 cars stopped in front of a building on the edge of the town. Judging from the faint traces on the sign above the door, this should have been a hotel. Carl and his sister got out of the car in front. How about we use this as a base? According to the plan, they will stay in this abandoned town for a few days, during which they will sleep in the car at night. Parking in this open space near the town is obviously a good choice. Julie got out of the car, looked at the surrounding environment, and nodded. Zuemo did not refuse. In his opinion, it doesn't matter where to stop. Anyway, they won't stay here for too long. Next, everyone carried a backpack, filled it with some food and water, and planned to explore the town. Julie, who was walking in front, hesitated for a while, took out a few small bottles from her backpack, and handed them to everyone. Keep them all. They can save lives at critical moments. Carl took the small bottle, opened it and smelled it. What's in it? Holy water. After Julie squeezed out these 2 words, she walked along the road towards the town without looking back. Carl and Jason put the thing away solemnly. They didn't care what was inside. They only had one thought in their minds, that this was something Julie gave them. Although everyone heard it, it didn't stop them from treating it as a treasure and keeping it with them. Lina put the small bottle in her pocket without caring, muttering, "Sure enough, it's just like the rumors, a little witch." Zuemo played with the holy water in his hand and glanced at Julie's back. Obviously, the other party should know something. Otherwise, he wouldn't prepare such a thing. Zuemo could feel that there was a trace of weak energy in the holy water. This energy seemed to be somewhat similar to the power of Vishanti. It should have some effect on some low-level monsters, but it's hard to say how big the effect is. When he just entered the range of Silent Hill, Zuemo felt that there was a hidden space here. In Silent Hill, there is a place similar to the mirror space. This mirror space is a world constructed based on a small town. There are 2 states of space. It is called the surface world and the inner world. The surface world is a world covered by fog all year round. This world is relatively safer, with only some scattered monsters with weak strength. These monsters can't even be stopped by guns, and they are considered weak chickens after a period of time. The surface world is transformed into the inner world. In the inner world state, the fog in the space will disappear, and a large number of monsters will emerge at the same time. These monsters are transformed by the fear of humans who enter it. The 2 worlds are like day and night, alternating. Although Zuemo felt the existence of the space and was confident that he could easily enter the space, he did not do so. As far as he knew, the inner and outer worlds of Silent Hill were created by the evil spirits that were the result of the hatred of the little girl Alessa and the evil spirit. If he acted too high profile, the evil spirit would probably choose to escape. So what he had to do was to try not to alert the enemy. For this purpose, he also specially prepared some hot weapons. The huge backpack behind him was already filled with various firearms. These weapons were all borrowed by him through the space gate in the morning. Jason looked at the huge backpack behind Zuemo with a look of surprise on his face. "Zu, are you bringing out all the food?" "There is no need for that. We will be back in the evening. We only need to bring lunch." He shook his light backpack. While saying that point, looking at the empty appearance of his backpack, Zuemo opened his backpack. "In that case, you can help me share some of the burden." As he said that, he took out 2 boxes of bullets and several grenades from his backpack and stuffed them into the other party's backpack. Jason stared at Zuemo's actions in amazement. "Wait, we are here for adventure, not for anti-terrorism. Do you really need to bring so many weapons? Okay, stop talking nonsense, carry it." Zuemo zipped up his backpack, put it on his back and left. Jason could only shake his head when he heard this. After thinking for a while, he also put on the pistol he bought yesterday and then chased after Zuemo. The few people wandered around the town aimlessly. Julie frowned slightly, staring at something that looked like a compass in her hand. Lina, who was following behind, held a camera in her hand and stopped to take pictures excitedly from time to time, looking like she was here for sightseeing. Carl looked at the surrounding environment with a cautious face. From the attitude of the residents of the town where they lived towards Silent Hill, he always felt that this town was a little abnormal. Zuemo and Jason walked silently behind. Soon, everyone came to an abandoned building that seemed to be a school. Julie took a look at the building in front of her and walked in directly. The others followed closely behind. As soon as he stepped into the door, Zuemo felt a familiar wave, which was very similar to the feeling he had when he entered the mirror space before. Sure enough, he saw that the air inside the building was filled with white mist. A smile appeared on his face. "Finally, you can't help it and pull us into the surface world." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96, Ghost Hunter Julie. Zuemo took a few steps back, returned to the outside of the building. Jason, who followed Zuemo into the building, looked at Zuemo's strange movements. He also walked out. "How did you?" Before he finished speaking, the look on his face changed drastically. "No, how is this possible?" Jason looked at the scene outside with a shocked expression. The scene of bright sunshine just now has disappeared, replaced by the outline of a building shrouded in darkness and mist. In the sky, pieces like snowflakes fell down. Jason reached out and caught a piece. Only then did I realize that this thing looked like ashes floating into the sky after burning items. It was clearly sunny just now. No, I must have not slept well last night, and I was hallucinating. He muttered something to himself. Then he returned to the room and walked out again with his eyes closed. Open your eyes. There was still a fog with visibility less than 10 meters in front of him. Zuemo looked at the other party's disbelief and patted him on the shoulder. Then he walked towards the room. In fact, Zuemo thought about whether to persuade them not to come to Silent Hill. But after thinking about it, he rejected this decision. What reasons do you use to persuade the other party? You know, before seeing the facts, it is impossible for these people to believe that there are weird existences in this world. There is almost a 10 to 10 chance that they will not listen to their own advice. Instead, he became dissatisfied with himself because of his own obstruction. Why bother yourself so much? In the end, Zuemo chose to respect the fate of others. Returned to the building again. Julie and Carol both looked at the foggy room with surprised expressions. Then Jason ran in with the shock on his face still not gone. "Can anyone tell me what's going on?" Hear his shout. Carl and Julie both had doubts on their faces. What happened? Jason recounted the situation outside. After hearing this, several people's expressions changed, and then they walked out of the door looking at the foggy and misty scene outside. Carolina and Jason had the same expressions. Only Julie showed a solemn look on her face. Oops. After hearing this, Carol came back to his senses and looked at her seriously. Julie, do you know something? Julie didn't answer, but spoke. Let's get out of here first. After saying that, the leader was about to run towards where the car was parked. But at this time, a sound of footsteps and roars came from the mist, and they got closer and closer. After a moment, 3 shambling figures gradually came out of the fog point. After seeing these figures clearly, except for Zuemo and Julie, everyone else let out a cry of terror. There are no faces or arms on the deformed bodies of these figures, and the entire body seems to be wrapped in a thick film. The body twists unnaturally when walking. Run. Julie hurriedly shouted to several people, then reached out and took out a shotgun from her backpack. After hearing this, several people reacted and followed closely behind. Julie was about to shoot. There was another figure who moved faster than her the first time he heard the sound. Zuemo calmly took out a pistol from his backpack. Glock 17 pistol. The moment the monster appeared, Zuemo pulled the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. After a few shots, the 3 monsters fell to the ground, and a stream of green blood spurted out from the muzzles of their bodies. However, Zuemo, who had foreseen all this in advance, had already dodged away. The few people who had just turned around and ran out 2 steps were started when they heard the gunshots coming from behind. They turned and looked behind them, only to find that the 3 monsters had been killed by Zuemo. Seeing this scene, Julie looked at Zuemo again. It seemed that Zuemo had not been much impressed in her mind during her years as a classmate. Unexpectedly, the other party reacted much faster than her when encountering this kind of situation, and when he saw this kind of monster, he didn't show any panic on his face. Could this person be traveling with her? Julie silently guessed in her heart. The other 3 looked at the corpses of the 3 monsters on the ground with fear, and then breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that they had really been eliminated. Then everyone looked at Zuemo holding a gun with one hand in amazement. Zu, when did you become so courageous? Jason had a look of disbelief on his face. He clearly remembered that the last time they went to the haunted house together, he was the one who helped Zuemo out of it. People always change. Zuemo opened his mouth and answered. Lena rushed up like a little girl and gave Zuemo a big hug. It's a pity that Zuemo has no experience at all through such thick clothes. Follow me. Zuemo said something and walked towards the church in the center of the town. Jason and Lena saw this and followed without any hesitation. Julie hesitated for a moment, then gritted her teeth and followed after seeing Zuemo's calm expression. When Carol saw that he was the only one left, he quickly followed him. Do you know something? Julie, who was following Zuemo, asked. Zuemo glanced at her before asking questions. Can you introduce yourself first? Julie obviously knew that such an unexpected situation would occur here, otherwise she would not carry holy water with her. Julie asked tentatively after hearing Zuemo's words. Ah, you also a ghost hunter? Zuemo's expression moved. What is a ghost hunter? Julie was stunned when she heard the words, isn't it? After hesitating for a moment, Julie began to explain. Julie's current situation shows that this is obviously not just an ordinary evil spirit. She dared not imagine how powerful the evil spirit would be to create such a world. If someone does not understand the situation and messes around, it is very likely that all of them will be killed here. It is better to explain it to them in advance. As Julie told her, Zuemo and the others gradually understood. According to her, she is a ghost hunter. Because of the frequent supernatural events in this world, the government has established a special secret organization to fight these evil spirits, but with more and more supernatural events the official was already somewhat powerless. Then a secret organization was established. This organization released the supernatural events that occurred in various places in the form of bounties, and the commission was not low. This led to the birth of the special profession of ghost hunters. These people specialize in taking such tasks. Of course, generous commissions represent great dangers. A certain chance led Julie to enter this line of work. 2 months ago, she accepted the task here in Silent Hill. This task is one of the tasks with the highest rewards on the task list. She has been investigating things about the town for the past 2 months, but she has not obtained many clues, and Carl learned by chance that she was looking for information about this town. Then there was this event. After Julie learned about it, she hinted to the other party several times not to come to this town. However, after Carl learned that the other party was interested in this place, how could he easily give up this opportunity? On the surface, he agreed to her, but privately organized this expedition. After Julie learned about it, she had no choice but to come along. After all, the incident was caused by her. She couldn't just watch them come and die. If she was with them, they would have some security. After listening to Julie's narration, Cole was stunned. Chapter 97. The Otherworld arrives. Julie and -039's Reliance. After Zuemo listened, his eyes glanced at Julie. No trace of energy was found from the other party. A surprised look appeared on his face at that moment. You ghost hunter, dealing with evil spirits? Just rely on the holy water you just took out. It's not that. Zuemo looks down on her. Ordinary people just rely on the kind of holy water that has a slight threat to evil spirits. Unless they encounter the kind of evil spirits that can only scare people. Otherwise, the effect is almost useless. Of course it's more than that. Of course I have my own methods. At this point, Julie explained expressionlessly. Each ghost hunter has his or her own special method of exorcism, which is usually kept secret and not easily shared with others. Zuemo nodded. From your words, it sounds like you are quite powerful in your line of work. To take one of the highest paid tasks, and it seems that the other party doesn't seem to be the big-hearted and brainless type. Zuemo reasoned reasonably. Well, enough. Julie opened her mouth to answer, but the flash of confidence in her eyes betrayed her. Although the town is located in a remote location, it covers a large area. After running for a long time, they finally reached the center of the town. Look in this direction. Julie couldn't help but ask, where exactly are we going? Before Zuemo could answer, the sound of air raid sirens suddenly sounded, echoing in the silent town. As the sirens sound, the surrounding scenery began to change dramatically. First, the surrounding fog began to gradually fade and disappear, and then under the gaze of Zuemo and the others, the walls of all the buildings began to fall off, revealing the red walls underneath that looked like they were soaked in blood. The ground also turns reddish brown. Even the sky turned into a scene like burning clouds. The entire world changed from a foggy town to a blood-red world in almost a few seconds. See this scene. Except for Zuemo. Everyone had a look of uneasiness on their faces. Even Julie looked around with a solemn expression. This is the most terrifying evil spirit I have ever seen. It actually has the ability to create the world. This is hardly world creation. Zuemo looked at a street intersection not far away and spoke calmly. He just finished speaking. A group of spider monsters with human heads ran out from the street he was staring at. Seeing these monsters, several people's expressions changed. They all retreated towards the rear. Only Lena stood there, looking at the group of human-faced spiders with a horrified look on her face, her lips trembling unconsciously. At the same time, my legs felt like they were filled with lead, and they couldn't control my movements. Growing up, her biggest fear was spiders. Carol took 2 steps back, only to find Lena standing there blankly. He glanced at the spiders in horror, then hurriedly walked to Lena, pulled her up, and ran towards the back. Corina was so frightened that her legs were unable to run normally. After taking just 2 steps, his legs weakened, and he fell to the ground. Fortunately, Zuemo and Julie on the side had already pointed their guns. These monsters' intensive gunfire rang out. Julie looked at the monster shot by the shotgun, with small wounds showing white smoke appearing on its body. But these wounds healed almost in the blink of an eye. The bullets in the gun are soaked in holy water and can cause huge damage to evil spirits, but now it seems that it is not very effective against these spiders. Turning to look at Zuemo. The pistol in Zuemo's hand rang one after another. As long as the spider in the direction of his gun was hit by a bullet, it would melt into a pool of blood in a few breaths and slowly seep into the ground. How is that possible? Seeing this scene, Julie looked stunned. The power of this pistol is also a bit exaggerated. At this distance, in terms of power, his Remington shotgun was at least 7 or 8 times more powerful than his pistol. But the damage caused to ghosts is completely different. It can only show that the opponent's bullets are not ordinary bullets. Zuemo didn't notice Julie's expression, but shot one by one. In less than 20 seconds, all the human-faced spiders had disappeared, leaving only a pool of blood on the ground. His bullets are certainly not ordinary bullets. He had already tried it with the first shot. Ordinary bullets cannot cause damage to these monsters. He then injected a trace of dark magic energy into the bullet. Sure enough, these spiders have no way of resisting energy-laden bullets. After the bullets were fired into their bodies, the energy inside spread out, directly turning these spiders into a pool of blood. At this time, Lina also stood up with Carol's help. I saw the looks of several people looking over. Carl explained. Actually, Lina is not that timid, but because she was bitten by a poisonous spider when she was very young, she was hospitalized for half a month and almost died. So she has always been very afraid of spiders. Hearing this, Zuemo's heart moved. So, these spiders are monsters that have absorbed Lina's fear and manifested themselves. If he remembered correctly, Silent Hill also had another characteristic, which was that it could materialize the fear in the hearts of the people inside. Just like Lina. Deep down, she was most afraid of spiders. Then in Silent Hill, she could create fear by creating an atmosphere or scaring other monsters. And Silent Hill would absorb the fear in her heart and then manifest the spider monster she feared the most. Thinking of this, Zuemo's eyes suddenly lit up. An idea came to his mind. He opened the system panel and checked it. After killing these spiders, there were points rewards. Although each one was 100 or 200 points, it showed that his idea was indeed feasible. Seeing that Lina had gradually recovered, Zuemo hurriedly shouted, "Hurry up and go to the church in the center of the town. That place is relatively safe." After all, these monsters had no way to enter the church. Although the people inside were not good people, they could easily deter the other party with guns in hand. At this time, different monsters rushed out from various intersections on the street. Seeing this, everyone rushed towards the center of the town. There were gunshots and explosions in succession. With the cover of Zuemo and Julie, everyone shuttled through the streets at a high speed. A few minutes later, the church appeared in their sight. The church stood in an open space in the center of the town. Surrounded by several dead trees. The church looked a little scary. At the entrance of the church at this time, a triangular-headed monster holding a big knife seemed to be waiting for everyone to arrive. Seeing this monster, Julie's expression moved, gritted her teeth, and took out a leather package with a diameter of more than 30 centimeters from her backpack. While running, she opened the leather package. A sacred breath emanated from the surroundings. Zuemo, who was about to take action to get rid of the triangular head, felt this breath and showed a hint of surprise on his face. Is this a trump card? Chapter 98. Entering the church. What appeared in Julie's hand was a small silver crossbow. The breath emanating from the crossbow was the same as that of the holy water. The breath on it seemed to naturally restrain the breath of these evil spirits. After holding the crossbow in her hand, Julie did not hesitate to take out a short arrow and install it on it. She pulled the trigger towards the triangle head in the distance. The short arrow, made of ordinary material, after being shot, was already stained with a sacred power. The triangle head guarding the door raised the big knife in his right hand and blocked it across his chest. After the crossbow arrow with sacred power shot on it, a sound of metal clashing was heard. The crossbow arrow was bounced out. However, the sacred power on it had been infused into the big knife. I saw that the big knife gradually turned into ashes from the point where it touched the crossbow arrow. Fortunately, the triangle head reacted quickly and threw the big knife in his hand directly. Otherwise, even it would have suffered some damage. Seeing the sword in his hand destroyed, the huge head of the triangle head roared. He rushed towards everyone with bare hands. Julie put on the crossbow again and shot. The disadvantage of the triangle head's strong body was revealed. With his speed, he could not dodge these crossbows. 2 crossbows were shot at it in succession. 2 huge wounds were blown out on his body. However, although the wounds made it look very miserable, they were not fatal. And as he ran, the triangle head was close to everyone. Zuemo, who was watching the battle on the side, also roughly estimated the power of this weapon. For some ordinary evil spirits, basically one arrow can solve the battle. Even for Sadako, I'm afraid that she will die if she is hit by 2 more arrows. However, against a monster like the triangle head that has the whole world as its support, the damage caused is very limited. At least there is no way to get rid of the opponent in a short time. Seeing this, Zuemo no longer hesitated. After all, the monsters behind him were about to catch up. He raised the pistol and pulled the trigger. A bullet carrying 10 times the energy of the previous one was fired and instantly penetrated into the body of the triangle head. The body of the triangle head paused at first. Then, boom. A huge explosion sounded. In a moment, a huge metal triangle head fell from the sky and rolled twice in front of everyone. Everyone looked at the metal head on the ground and then turned to look at Zuemo. Is this a pistol? Jason swallowed and muttered. This power is probably no more than that of a rocket launcher. Julie was also a little skeptical about life at this time. You know, she spent a lot of effort and luck to get the holy silver crossbow in her hand. Relying on this thing, she has been ranked in the top 10 among ghost hunters in just 2 years. But her proud thing is not as good as the other party's pistol. Although she knew that the other party's pistol should have been modified, she was still a little unbelievable. You know, this is a truth recognized by hunters. Those powerful treasures that can deal with evil spirits are all ancient treasures. This is true. These ghost hunters who rank high can achieve this level by relying on an item in their hands that has great lethality to evil spirits. If we talk about the means to deal with these evil spirits, there is almost nothing. But Zuemo's pistol is obviously a modern product. In this case, it means that the other party has a way to deal with evil spirits. Since the first one can be modified, the second one can be modified. If I can buy a weapon like this from the other party, I should have more than 60% chance of dealing with that extremely powerful evil spirit. Thinking of this, she looked at Zuemo with a strange light in her eyes. Zuemo ignored the gazes of several people and walked directly to the door of the church. Seeing this, the others hurriedly followed. Stepping onto the steps at the door of the church, Zuemo stretched out his hand and pushed, and the door had been locked from the inside. The people in the room couldn't possibly not know what was happening outside. How could they not hear the gunshots so close? But these people still had no intention of opening the door, which was obviously intentional. Thinking of this, Zuemo used his mental power to explore the room. In the church with more than 100 people, more than a dozen people were standing at the door, holding the door tightly. A middle-aged woman with short hair was standing behind them and directing them. Stop them, we must keep them out. They are all the incarnation of the devil. Once they are allowed in, none of us will be spared. With her bewitching words, more and more people came forward and worked together to block the door. The rest of the people behind and cheered. Seeing this, the middle-aged woman showed a satisfied smile on her face. She was Bella, the bishop of the cult organization in this church, Alessa's aunt, and she was also the culprit who ordered Alessa to be burned alive, leading to the situation in Silent Hill. After seeing the scene outside through the window, she felt a sense of crisis, because they were all dragged into this world by Alessa in a hurry. This resulted in them not having any hot weapons in their hands in this way. The number of people determines the strength of the fighting force. She, who has bewitched almost all the residents, is undoubtedly a leader in this world. But if these people with guns are allowed to come in, the result will be uncertain. After all, although these people are bewitched by her words, they are not obedient to her. Under the threat of life, she is not sure how many people will stand on her side. Therefore, the best result is to let them all die in the hands of the monsters outside. Everything in the church fell clearly into Zuemo's telekinetic perception. The people in this church are all residents of the town who participated in the burning of Alessa, and none of them are good. Zuemo was not polite to them. Turned to the window on the side. He broke the glass on the window with a shot, took out a grenade from his backpack, pulled the ring, and threw it in. The few people standing behind Zuemo looked at his smooth little combo. There was a hint of surprise on their faces. They sighed in their hearts. This Zuemo must have a side job in private, in the church. Bella, who was looking at her believers with satisfaction, heard a gunshot, and then a spherical object fell to the ground with a bang, and then rolled to her feet. After seeing the shape of the sphere clearly, Bella's face changed drastically. She fell back in a hurry. Boom. A huge explosion sounded in the church. After the explosion, the whole church fell into chaos. The people hiding in the back screamed and looked for shelter. The group of people who were blocking the door, the closest ones, had fallen in a pool of blood. The rest were all scratched by shrapnel or shot into the body by shrapnel, and they screamed. Chris Bella was lucky, but only one foot was blown off by the grenade. He was not killed on the spot. All the people behind the door had fallen to the ground. Zuemo used telekinesis to control the door to open, and then stepped in. Chapter 99. Miserable Bella. Julie followed Zuemo in. Looking at the wounded lying on the ground, a trace of surprise appeared on her face. Is there a person in here? The others were also surprised when they came in. They had always thought that there was no one in this room, and even if there was, it should be some monsters. They never expected that there were so many humans hiding in it. However, they had no mercy on these people. You know, they just kicked the door hard outside, but it didn't open. They knew why. From the position of the people lying at the door, it can be guessed. At this time, the screams of the wounded who were a distance away from Zuemo were obviously several tones higher than the others. The reason was that Zuemo had deliberately adjusted the position of his footsteps along the way. They chose the position of their wounds. Seeing Zuemo's actions, the others were not polite. Slowly walked to Bella, who was lying on the ground, covering her legs and screaming. Zuemo squatted down. You are right about one thing. After I come in, none of you will be spared. Bella looked at the gentle smile on Zuemo's face, fell to the ground with a look of horror, and crawled backwards. Devil. He is a devil. Kill him. Strangely, none of these residents who usually obeyed her words rushed towards Zuemo as she expected. They are not stupid. The pistol was still in Zuemo's hand. What's the difference between rushing up and committing suicide? Seeing this, Zuemo stood up from the ground, and the smile on his face became even bigger. He caught up with the crawling Bella into steps, raised his right foot, and stepped on the other's broken leg. Where is Alessa? Hearing Zuemo's question, Bella's face changed, and she even forgot the pain in her leg, and looked at him in shock. Ah, you here for that devil? What is your relationship with her? Hearing this, Zuemo added a little more strength to his feet. This is not something you should care about. Just tell me where she is. Bella screamed and begged for mercy. I'll tell you. Hearing this, Zuemo took his foot off the other person's leg. Seeing Zuemo's fierce appearance, trembled, and everyone in the church looked down, afraid of being noticed by him. Even Jason and the others who came in with Zuemo seemed to be meeting this good friend for the first time. There were even more guesses in their hearts. Could Zuemo's part-time job be a terrorist? At this time, while Zuemo was not paying attention, 7 or 8 figures lying on the ground with injuries suddenly jumped up from the ground, pounced on Zuemo. At the same time, more than a dozen figures in the crowd outside rushed up at the same time. Be careful, Jason roared. Raised the muzzle of the gun in his hand, and was about to shoot at one of the figures. Click. The expected gunshot did not sound. He then remembered that the magazine had been emptied when he was outside. Jason was stunned, then threw away the gun in his hand and rushed towards a figure. Julie and Carl on the side also reacted quickly. They all stepped forward to stop these people. After all, they were able to come here alive thanks to Zuemo. However, before they could take action, Zuemo, who had mental power, reacted faster than them. He had noticed when these people just moved. Those shrapnel that flew and shot into the bodies of these people all flew out under the traction of mental power. With uniform screams, dozens of shrapnel of varying sizes were already floating in the air. Then these shrapnel shot straight at the eyebrows of those people. In a moment, all the figures that rushed up softened and fell to the ground. From the time they took action to the time their eyebrows were shot through, the process took only 3 seconds. Julie and the others had not reacted at all. Jason, who was the fastest, had even rushed towards a limp figure. He pressed the other's body directly under him. Feeling that the other party had no power to resist, he loosened his arms in surprise and turned the man with his back to him over. It was not until this time that he discovered An irregular blood hole had appeared between the man's eyebrows. Because the speed was too fast, most people didn't even see what happened clearly. They only saw these people rushing towards Zuemo and fell to the ground after rushing out 2 steps. After all, the tiny shrapnel was almost as fast as a bullet under Zuemo's control. At this moment, these people quietly retreated to the back. In their eyes, Zuemo was like a devil. Only those who had shrapnel in their bodies could vaguely guess something. Julie looked at those people covering their wounds with a thoughtful look in her eyes. At this time, the sound of the air defense alarm sounded again. Zuemo and his men looked outside. The red color of the entire town slowly faded, and the various monsters surrounding it also disappeared. The town returned to its previous pale color and was shrouded in fog. Seeing this, Zuemo glanced at the crowd and then pointed at 2 relatively sturdy men. "You to come out." When the 2 men heard this, their faces changed drastically. Plop. And they knelt on the ground. "It's none of our business. It's all this witch's fault. It has nothing to do with us." "That's right. It's all this witch's fault. They are so many, and we can't resist." The 2 began to rush to put all the blame on Bella. "Shut up," Zuemo shouted. After hearing this, the 2 knelt on the ground in silence, not daring to make a sound. Seeing that the 2 had quieted down, Zuemo pointed at Bella lying on the ground and spoke. "You 2 lift her up and follow me." Hearing that Zuemo was not going to cause trouble for them, the 2 breathed a sigh of relief. He hurried forward and lifted Bella up. Zuemo turned his head to look at Julie and the others. "Just stay in this church. It's safe here. Just be careful of these people." "Where are you going?" Julie asked after hearing Zuemo's words. "Of course, we are going to completely solve the problem in this town." After that, Zuemo walked out of the church. The 2 people Zuemo pointed out carried Bella and followed him obediently. Julie followed without hesitation after hearing this. "I'll go with you." "No need." Zuemo directly rejected the other party's proposal. Julie walked directly behind him and said with a firm attitude, "Although I'm not as strong as you, I can be of some use." "Me too." Jason hurried out after hearing this. He shook the loaded pistol. "Although I may not be able to help you, I can help you keep an eye on these 2 people to prevent them from taking the opportunity to escape." Chapter 100. These legs are pretty good. Carol, who was standing behind, hesitated for a moment and glanced at Lina next to him. In the end, he still didn't stand up. And pulled back Lina, who wanted to follow and join in the fun. "What are you doing?" After being lifted up from the ground by Carol, Lina turned her head and glared angrily. "What are you doing? Causing trouble?" Hearing Carol's words, Lina curled her lips angrily. Although he didn't want to admit it, what Carol said was right. She had been protected from the beginning to the end before she came here. If she really followed, they would still have to worry about protecting her, which would have no effect other than causing chaos. Carol stepped forward. He said with an apologetic look, "Sorry, Zu, I can't go with you." Zuemo waved his hand with a speechless expression on his face. "What are you doing? It's like you're going to be buried with me. Just stay in the church. Honestly, I don't need you to help me at all." Although the words are a bit unpleasant, these people are really just a burden to follow. But in the end, both Julie and Jason insisted on following him. Forget it. It doesn't matter. Zuemo sighed secretly. Just follow it. At that moment, several people walked into the fog. Half an hour later, under Bella's guidance, everyone stood in front of the gate of a hospital. After entering the hospital, Bella, whose face had turned very pale due to bleeding, pointed to a door opening in the lobby on the 1st floor. "The devil you are looking for is in room 115 on the 2nd floor. After hearing this, Jason behind Zuemo stepped forward and opened the rusty thing door. It looks like an elevator inside. The strange is that for some unknown reason, the elevator is still powered on and can be used. Zuemo was not surprised. He had already verified it in the hotel yesterday. There was no science at all about evil spirits. Several people entered the elevator one after another. Seeing that she was also going to be taken down, Bella had a look of panic on her face. "What are you doing? I don't want to go to that place. Let me down." As she spoke, Her body began to struggle violently. She was very aware of Alessa's hatred for her. It was under her instruction that Alessa was almost burned to death. Although she survived, the extensive burns on her body made her live in pain all day long. It can be said that the person Alessa hates the most, she ranks second and absolutely no one dares to rank first. If she entered Alessa's territory, I'm afraid it would be a luxury for her to die simply. Zoo Emo didn't speak, and the two men carrying her were unhappy. After carrying her all the way, the two of them were so tired that they could hardly stand still. The other party's struggle would undoubtedly increase their effort level by several steps. One man couldn't help it, raised his hand and slapped her twice. Be honest. These two slaps made a look of anger appear on Bella's face. It turned out that these people were as docile as rabbits in front of her, but now they dared to hit her. It was outrageous. At that moment, she struggled even more fiercely. After the man beat her, he looked at Zuemo carefully. When I saw him, I didn't stop him, nor did I show any unpleasant expression. I felt confident at that moment. Feel the other person's body struggling. He freed his right hand, raised his hand and spoke more than a dozen times. He hit Bella until she started to roll her eyes before stopping. After losing too much blood, coupled with these nearly 20 mouths, Bella became completely honest. The reason why Zuemo brought the other party down with him, mainly because he was afraid that Alessa wouldn't see him. This is a mirror space she created. If she doesn't want to see her, unless she destroys this space, it won't be easy to find him. At least with Zuemo's attainments in magic, there was no way to get the other party out, except destroying the space. After all, he had only been exposed to the magic of mirror space for a few days. Knowledge of this space is limited. But if this space is useful to him, if this space is destroyed, he is not sure whether Alessa can still use it. It sounds like a mirror space, but this space is different from the mirror space in many ways. In this way, the only way for the other party to see him is with Bella in front of him. Alessa's hatred for Bella was not the slightest bit. Although this space is based on Alessa. But it's not completely under Alessa's control. Only the inner world is under her control. The outer world is not. This is also the reason why these people dare to wander around the town wantonly when the state of the world is being expressed. But before entering the other world, these people will hide in the church. The church in this world is also a place beyond her control. As long as the other person is in the church, she has no way to hurt him. This also led to the fact that, although she hated Bella extremely in her heart and dragged them into this world, she never had a chance to take revenge. I'm afraid Alessa was eager for Emo to take Bella underground with her into a space completely under her control. There was a clang sound. The old elevator stopped at the second floor. Several people walked out of the elevator. Jason took the second floor structure diagram removed from the first floor wall and led the way in one direction. It was pitch black in the second underground floor. Fortunately, Zuemo was well prepared, and everyone held a huge flashlight in their hands. Under 4 or 5 flashlights, the entire corridor was illuminated as bright as day. After turning a corner, Jason looked at the scene in front of him and was a little stunned. It's so big. What's so big? Hearing this, Julie also looked in the direction of his gaze. Looking at the faceless nurses wearing super short nurse skirts crowded in the corridor, her face changed. At this time, Zuemo also saw these famous long-legged nurses. I have to say, very long, very white. These faceless nurses sensed the light source here, and they all shouted and rushed in this direction. Seeing this, Zuemo stopped Julie, who was about to shoot with the holy silver crossbow. Glancing at the nurses rushing over, he waved his right hand gently. A series of purple glowing ropes stretched out from both sides of the wall, each wrapped around the neck of a nurse. As the ropes tightened. These faceless nurses were all hung on the walls on both sides of the corridor by ropes. Seeing this scene, other 5 people, even the dying Bella, widened their eyes. What is this? Julie stared at the scene in amazement. The previous guns could be explained, but the one in front of her was a bit magical. Wait until we get out to explain. Hearing this, they didn't ask any more questions. This location is indeed not a good place to explain. Zuemo didn't stop. If he remembered correctly, the end of this corridor should be the room where Alessa was. As he walked away, Jason, who had recovered from his shock, hurriedly followed. When passing by those faceless nurses, He looked at their faces, it looked like they were burned, and the whole face became one. It looks so ugly, but he looked down. This leg is not bad. After saying that, he reached out and touched it, then chased after the people in the distance. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.